he says he's all set, so. You're on.
Okay, good after 7 o'clock. I will call the May 25th meeting to order, and we'll start out with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We need, did the minutes get read by Jack?
Yes.
Okay,
I have reviewed the minutes for the meeting April 27th, 2022, and recommended one small wording adjustment, which I believe was completed. So I would move that we approve those minutes as drafted and amended.
Second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. First one is an enforcement order violation, 121 Amberville Road. Please, and just state your name and your address and all that. Please.
My name is Nancy Wong. The address is 121 Amberville Road, North Andover, Massachusetts, 01845.
Okay. What I'm gonna say is, you were under an enforcement order. It was voted unanimously at the last meeting. So that stands, it will stand, because the 25 is very sacred to us. So I know you want to speak tonight, so we'll give you 5 minutes to speak.
Okay, thank you.
Tell us what you have to. I would pull the mic a little closer, because I don't know if they can hear you. Can you hear, can they?
Are you getting enough volume back there? Okay, he says he's good.
Okay.
All right.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I was surprised to learn that I was fine after last meeting. I understood from the meeting, at the end of the meeting, was that Amy and Tyler are going to visit my house and give me instruction and come up with the schedule. That was my understanding. So I was really quite surprised when I received the letter that I was fine. I made quite a progress since then, since last Wednesday, Amy and Tyler's visit.
That's good.
Okay. How long do you think it would take you to get the plants and stuff out of the, because I'm sure they've already told you what has to stay and what can leave, right?
Right.
All right, so how long do you think it would take you?
I guess a few more days. I do have a full-time job, so a few more days.
So you think 2 weeks would be enough time?
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's up to the commission. I would, if she's making progress and she's asking for 2 weeks, I think we should suspend the fines to the next meeting. And if it's not done by the next meeting, if she doesn't have a real good enough reason, then we'll start the fines up again.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think what I saw in voting for the fine was the fact that a homeowner who probably has little understanding of the sensitivity and the significance of what it is that we do and why it is we do it, surrounded herself with a consultant who ought to know better, and for whatever reason was giving bad counsel and bad recommendations. I think that there was somewhere that was going to stay. And I was frustrated hearing the consultant not supporting us. That's what my concern was. And that was my vote of the fine. So I think suspending it by is an absolute minimum. I'd like to suspend it immediately, but I'd even be interested in revisiting the fines from whatever day we impose them. That's my position. But that aside, is 2 weeks is another meeting, but I see no harm at this point to even giving them till the first meeting in July just as long as they continue to show progress.
Well, that's why I asked her, she said a couple of days. So
Yeah.
I said 2 weeks. You wanna make it 4 weeks? That's
I
fine.
know
no
when I
problem.
set up to do a job at home, a couple of days, it always takes me, 5, 6. So I'm saying, first meeting in July, so long as there's a complete understanding of what has to be done and that it actually happens.
Okay,
To me, I think that's reasonable.
Jack?
Yeah, I think we've got in the books 2 weeks' worth of fines right now at this point. We can choose to stop those fines. Sounds like we're leaning in that direction. I would work toward the deadline, as you suggested, Lou. A deadline. If the applicant wants 2 weeks, okay. If we're amenable to giving her 4, I'm not against that. If the work is done by the deadline, I'm in favor of wiping out all fines. But if the work's not done by the deadline, all fines are instated and enforced.
Thank you.
I have no objection to this, all the suggestions.
And I'm gonna agree, so what they're saying is that you want 4 weeks. You want 2, they're gonna give you 4,
Okay,
okay?
thank you so
But
much.
I know. It's my turn, right? So,
If you insist.
Mr.
so
Chairman.
what they'll do is no more fines. If you get done by 1st of July, we'll eliminate all the fines. But if you
Okay.
don't, the fines will stand,
Okay, I understand.
all right?
Okay, thank you.
Sean,
No questions.
all right?
No, I agree. I think that's a diplomatic way to handle it.
Okay, so
What's the deadline, 1st of July?
1st of July.
First meeting in July.
First meeting in
First
July.
July, okay.
And Amy, you're both on the same page as to what needs to be done? I mean, that's the
Yes.
only way this thing gets screwed up.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
I mean, we physically staked out the 25 in the fields,
Yep.
staked out, and I think with our site visit and a couple of site visits that Taylor has done with you, I think you have a really good feeling for
Right.
what
Now
needs to go.
right.
There are natives that are popping up, so we can
Right.
keep those and let them just go.
Right.
And then intermingle additional plants and seeding.
So the extra plants, I'm not very familiar with the native plants. Since all the plants already popping up, do I still need to plant extra plants?
I think so, particularly down right next to the wetland, closest to the stone wall next to the vernal pool.
But the slope, there's some natives coming in,
Yeah,
so it could potentially be reduced in that area.
yeah,
but-
where the pea stone walkway was closest to the vernal pool, I think.
There are quite a few pop up, right?
On the
today.
slope, yeah, and then a
Right.
couple high bush blueberry.
I would say
So-
Amy, I would say that, it's a lot, she doesn't, where she's not very literate on the
species.
bylaws and the plants and all that. If you guys can make one more visit with her and show her what can stay, what has to go, what she can plant, so you'll have an understanding of what we're trying. We're not trying to be vindictive towards you, it's just that we have to honor, we have laws, and
Understand.
25 to us is very important to us. Not just you, to everybody that comes before us. As soon as they start talking 25, everything goes quiet.
When was the last time you guys were out?
I was out today,
Today?
and,
they were just beginning to emerge?
Yeah,
yes, there
some
were
of-
some native high bush blueberry, native witch hazel, some tupelo emerging on the slope.
So you're a professional, when you see the seed, the seedlings coming up, saplings coming up,
Yeah.
you know what you're looking at, but
Yeah.
you think another week, do a follow-up, could there be emerged that much more, and
They could be a little bit more than some of the mulch may have suppressed.
you think that would be
some
better
growth.
guidance, that, not this week, but maybe the middle of the end of next week,
Yeah, I think we could do our next visit to allow for a little bit more growth.
Could I make a
We'll let
suggestion?
administration handle it.
Yes.
Could we give her a planting list, a list of approved plantings that she can plant?
Yes,
And maybe on your visit, take a can of white spray paint and spray the invasives that should leave. Everything else should stay.
yeah,
And maybe point out areas where these approved plantings should be installed.
yeah,
And I think that's all we can do.
yes,
Well, we have, there's other things to do that has to be addressed, the stairs,
Well,
there's pea stone,
Yeah.
there's other
I
things.
already removed that. You saw it, right? I
yeah,
already
there's a
removed
little
that.
bit up top.
Right,
that
right.
path
Yeah, it's
still,
starting.
That's
But
where
that's
we'll
why,
look
that's
at.
why we want them to come out and kind of explain to you
We'll
what
give
has to be
additional
done.
guidance on the plant list and invasive to go and ornamentals to go.
Do you need a motion from us at all?
Yes,
or-
we do.
Yes, to amend the enforcement
Amend the
order, to
enforcement.
establish a new deadline for the first meeting in July, suspend the fines. If that deadline's not met, fines are reinstated through that time.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next one is,
I got a question for you.
yes,
So, Jack Sullivan is representing the town for the emergency program certificate of compliance.
yeah,
He's got like 3 other
he
meetings
doesn't have to be
tonight.
here.
Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, he's online, I was just wondering. But if you don't feel the need.
I think it's an
Okay.
no-brainer. Next one is 242-1837, 1260 Salem Street, request to continue till June 22nd.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. And we have another continuance, 242-1842 Lorraine Ave, request to continue till June 8th.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. All right, next one is 242-1839, 1160 and 1116 Great Pond Road. Brooks Group.
Good evening.
All right. You want to give us an update first, Amy, and then we'll...
Yeah, I'm just trying to pull up a plan. Alrighty, so at the last meeting, the commission will recall asking for some updated materials regarding a more distinctive construction sequence and erosion control plan and sequencing. Specification sheets on the proposed reinforced turf. Detail on dewatering. And a full plan set that shows the updates in terms of the boathouse moving outside of the 50-foot no-build zone. We have those materials. The planning board had its site visit yesterday. I believe they're still on track to make a decision at their June 7th meeting, which is right before our June 8th meeting. So this is really a check-in. I don't know if anything came out of the planning board site visit of significance.
Nothing, no.
Okay.
No, everything went well.
Okay. So, you know, I guess if there's any last feedback from you guys in between our next meeting that they could work on. If not, I'd be drafting a decision to be ready for you guys to close and issue that evening on the 8th. I think I didn't get a chance to mention that for the faculty housing with the demolition of the existing single-family house, there was some areas of historic dumping that the school is perfectly willing to remove that, that are next to the wetlands, so that can be a condition
Okay. Thank you.
for that.
Joe?
One of the details we asked for was for cross-section of the reinforced turf and the installation spec to be noted out in the plan set, and I'm not finding it anywhere. Has
So
that
it
been
was,
done yet?
it wasn't in the plan set, but this is the spec
Yeah.
sheet that was submitted. It's grass paved too, so this is a specification sheet.
Is it at least in the construction, in the plans as construction note?
It's noted on the plans what it's to be, but we typically don't put the spec sheet that shows.
So
'cause
is
you
there
wanted
a
to see the-
cross-section shown on that, or is it just an installation spec?
These are the detail,
So
construction
if there's a
detail.
cross-section detail,
I believe there is.
put on the plan and make reference to the sheet.
I believe it,
Is
yeah,
that,
it's for
that way the
grass.
contractor will have it in the document.
Right, we called for grass pave on there. But I know one of the questions was if we had the strength, and that's why we submitted this for you folks to see that the strength is rated at 15,940 PSI, which is, again, this was a spec sheet we had given to the fire department on previous projects to show that it could support their fire apparatus as well. So there should be, there should be landscape details.
Landscape, okay.
I think
So I'm
if you have the
probably
separated
not-
files, it might be
Yeah.
easier to find that way.
All right, so, I can tell you, I was looking for a detail. If it's in the notes, all I'm saying is just to save time, to just be doubly sure it's in here.
Yeah, there's a detail on
Oh, here we go.
L3. Yep.
L300. Here.
So we show a
Pulling it up
condition,
right there.
we show a condition of it next to bituminous concrete or next to lawn. So no matter where it's applied in the project, it shows.
I went through all my L sections, L2s, then went to architecturals, and I just bailed out.
Yeah,
And then your landscape picks up again.
yeah. So it's in the detail sheets, L 3.00,
Got it.
detail 5.
Yep, right there.
So the condition's also along the drive, for the fire department, it's along the drive to the faculty housing. So half of the detail shows what the condition would be like against bituminous, and the other half shows what it would be with grass on the other side.
Okay, I'm good with that detail. Again, I apologize, I didn't expect to see it after the architecturals.
No problem. And we do reference the same product that we sent the spec sheet in for, just so they sync up.
Thank you. I'm all set.
All right, thanks. Jack?
Yeah, we've been doing really well on this project, and you've given us all we wanted. This is the first time I've really had a chance to go through in detail the detailed spec sheets, and I noticed that the house at 1116 Great Pond Road is serviced by a septic tank, an existing septic tank. Okay, are all the homes down there on septic tanks?
No,
No.
no. So
Yeah. could
that's
you
the
help me?
only house, so that was a property that Brook School purchased.
Yeah.
And so it has its own septic system. All of the other existing facilities on campus are serviced by gravity sewer lines that get pumped up to the municipal sewer system. And so that's the only current property or building that has a septic system. It's outside the buffer zone, it's outside the watershed, but that septic system is going away. That's gonna be, the new housing is gonna be, we're gonna extend the sewer system to those new houses, and that's gonna all be tied into the gravity system.
Okay, so this existing septic tank is to be removed as part of this project?
Correct. That's going to be abandoned in accordance with the Board of Health Title V
Yeah.
regulations.
Sure,
Correct.
that's what I wanted to hear.
Yes.
Those sorts of details aren't shown here because it's not within our jurisdiction for this NOI.
There's a note on there on the plans.
But no detail because of that.
There's no detail to show. It's basically a note to abandon according to Board of Health regulations, which is you poke a hole in the bottom of the tank to make sure it doesn't hold water, and you fill it with clean fill. And that So we do have that note on there, but it is out of the buffer zone, not that it matters. We're, submitting the plans to you. Any comments are welcomed, but yeah, that's the intent, is to abandon that tank per Board of Health.
That's what I wanted to hear. No other questions?
Thanks, Jim. Yeah.
No questions.
I don't have any either.
Neither.
No questions.
Okay, we need a motion. Oh, we can't. We gotta wait for plan. That's what I was gonna ask you.
What-
Go to planning
planning
tomorrow?
Continue to the 8th.
Oh, you already
So-
did.
Yeah, so our next planning board meeting is June 7th, where we expect to hopefully have approved conditions then. There are some draft conditions being drawn up currently. So all goes well, we expect to have their approval on June 7th, and then we meet with you folks the following night.
Okay, so what we would do is, unless there's some major changes that come from planning, which I don't think will, we'll vote on it then, but we'll have the decision ready,
Okay, great.
so.
I move that we continue
Second, which meeting are we continuing to?
To the
June
8th.
June 8th.
June 8th.
All those in favor
Just
say
for the
aye.
record-
You ready to call the
Aye.
vote? You got questions?
No,
Oh, so-
Amy knows I'm not going to be at the June 8th
Yeah.
meeting, so we should have a quorum, I think, if
Yeah,
you guys are all going to be here.
Look how many of us there are.
I know, we got a whole gaggle for them.
4 for a quorum.
We got Doug back.
I know.
No, we don't.
Brian's only heard it once.
All right, so we have a motion to second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, appreciate it.
Okay, next one. 242-1843, 1761 Salem Street.
Oh. Are we having technical audio issues for those guys? Is it any better? Yes, hopefully. Hopefully that raised hand means yes. I hope. Okay, great. Okay, good. Alrighty, so Will,
1761 Salem.
1761 Salem. Okay, let me pull up the most recently revised plan. Alrighty, so Commission will recall at the last meeting, it requested that the property line at 50 Campbell Road be staked out in the field to determine if any of the, excuse me, debris piles landed on 50 Campbell. They finished that this week, and they did find that woody debris pile was pushed onto, 3 piles were pushed onto the 50 Campbell, and they're shown on the plan. 1 larger area, and then 2 smaller areas that straddle. These are in the outer reaches of the buffer zone and the riverfront, and they're slated to be removed. So that was the last outstanding issue for this project.
Thank you.
Except that there is an outstanding order for when the house was built. This was detected late only because in our tracker, it wasn't labeled as the actual address. It was a lot number, so it took a little more investigation to figure out, okay, yes, it does relate to this house. So, just so you know, I want you guys to be aware of that.
So there is half paper trail, just that we don't have the recorded COC.
We don't have a certificate of compliance. We don't have any request material either in the file.
They must have, those must be the ones that blew out on 125.
Well, this was dated 1981.
41 years ago.
These files never saw 125,
No.
not a chance. They just don't exist.
They don't exist. Okay, so how do we approach this, Mr. Senior Conservation Person?
We have a lot of options here. We can handle it, basically, the files indicate that the OOC was recorded but not closed out with a CSC. It's not difficult, we just issue a certificate of compliance, right?
They have to request it as part
They
of
have
this
to request it.
application.
Has it been requested?
No, it hasn't,
I see.
because
I
we
see.
just detected it
I see the
this
problem.
week.
Okay. All right.
Do we have a bond for this?
I believe so, but it, was probably for the developer.
81 is probably comp-fed, paper.
No, you know what? Well, only if it was cash, it's still there, otherwise it's not.
Yeah, it's probably paper in 81, right?
Yeah.
Could have been.
So I think Peter Blaisdell is on the line with us.
Thor is here.
Oh, Thor.
Can you hear us, Thor? He's having issues again. It
I
looks like
can't
he's
hear
trying
you,
to
Thor.
talk,
If you're
but
talking,
he's-
I can't hear you.
Sounds
Are you
like-
muted, Thor?
They can request a certificate of compliance tonight. We can,
They have to do it in writing.
Well,
we
they-
can table the discussion now, and they can submit a request for a COC in writing to this meeting.
No, there's materials that have to go into that, like an as-built typically, and, right?
We kind of have an as-built now, but we
We have-
need, they need to review the order.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
There was some, I believe there was potential for compensatory flood storage. So it's
Yeah, I
not,
think they need
No.
to make a formal request, and it needs to be
80?
on an
Not
agenda.
in 81.
and approved.
81 predates even our
Yeah,
our
they-
bylaw
Right,
Yeah,
by 3 years, right?
by 3 years.
yeah.
So, yeah,
85,
I
right?
guess, first and foremost,
You-
I agree with Ryan. They need to understand what the order of conditions says, and they need to comply with it. Chances are, it's probably not a heavy lift to comply.
Yeah, I
They
don't
just-
think it'll be hard, especially if everything's already constructed. If it even resembles the order of conditions 42 years later, that's the best you're gonna get, you know what I mean? The problem with issuing an order of conditions on top of another order of conditions that hasn't been closed out is that once they do the work for this
They
work
gave
isn't
the other
gonna
one.
match the previous order, right? So if you
Yeah.
keep piling stuff on top of the order that hasn't been closed out, it gets impossible to close that order out.
Why couldn't we close the old COC
because
if it's been recorded?
we need the request for a certificate of compliance. We need all that
Oh, I thought it
material.
was-
That was what I just asked. They
The-
haven't requested a certificate of compliance.
Oh, okay.
It's more than the request, they have to
do that.
comply, they have to do everything that it says in your final conditions. We've done this, and they need to at least submit an affidavit or a letter that says that the project substantially complies with the order conditions from such and such a
Yeah,
citation.
like if they had to do floodplain compensation, for example, we need to make sure that occurred before we can issue the certificate of compliance.
So it looks
So-
like Thor is live.
You know,
No,
well,
I
look,
don't know if you can hear us, that's,
well, you
are we
got,
still having,
We're still having issues.
Amy, you got written down what they have to do.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, we have a checklist for
All right,
certificate
so
of
why don't we
compliance.
just
know
continue
what
This
we
has to
need.
just be.
No, we have a checklist, or you have the one from the order of conditions from 81?
We have the order of conditions. Oh, in terms of what's required for a COC?
Yeah, back then.
Yeah, it's right there in the order.
Okay, so that's what it is they need to have in their hands and be able
Yes.
to issue an affidavit to
Yeah.
us that says that they've done that.
A stamp letter.
Okay.
I don't see any reason we can't review this concurrently, so that you approve the COC and then issue the order.
That's what
at
we've done the
same
last
hearing.
2 meetings. Really,
Right.
the last thing was this debris pile of the butter raise. In fact, it's there, they're showing it. I think we need to say that if we're gonna condition it as part of this, that it's only with the abutter's permission that they're gonna be able to go on and do work on an abutting property. But the butter raise, the
I
issue, so I
think
imagine he's
I
gonna
think
let
it's
him.
already been done.
not the L shape, he's only done the one in the,
I thought
Not next
they
to the
already
septic
cleared the
system.
stuff in the butter, right? Didn't you tell me
Not
that?
the other
No,
two.
not the ones that are,
yeah, there's the
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 new ones
oxbow
are-
one,
yeah.
boomerang,
And
and
the
the
two
two circles,
circles.
he hasn't done, the big one he has, correct?
right,
Yeah.
yes.
So, yeah, I think that was the only thing we had left hanging from the last hearing, besides this old order. So I guess my comment on that would be
Well,
that we would allow, under this project filing, permission to do that, so long as the abutter continues to be cooperative and grant the permission to enter his property to do that. We can't make them encroach on the abutter's property.
Based on the abutter being here a couple of times, I think he'd be.
I think he wants it, yeah, but, you know, we're not telling this guy to trespass.
Now he's
No, he's the one, no,
Call it
he's the one that brought it up. All right, so you want to, Brian, you think we should go over this one?
I think we should continue this
I
hearing.
can't hear on this.
No, just want to hold off, or? Okay. I think we should continue the notice of intent, public hearing, and then have them request a certificate of compliance. So we can have that on the agenda for the next meeting. If that's good to go, we can approve that. And if everything else is in order too, we could draft an order for us to approve at that same meeting, right?
What do you think, Mr. Legal Counsel? We good?
I think the order in which everything's going on is good. Whether or not you can continue this hearing without,
Yeah, we can,
you can.
yeah.
Didn't we, at the last meeting, wasn't there, didn't we require the boundary to be called out due to a ambiguity in the field?
We asked it to be physically staked in the field so that we know
So-
whether debris is on 50
So has that been
Campbell.
done?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so this shows now that we know this, they staked in the field, and they were able to survey the piles that were on 50 Campbell, and this plan shows it.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right, though, there's like the 4 criteria for continuing a hearing, you're saying like,
No, I'm just saying, I don't know if, because this is being televised and we have abutters at home, I believe, as well as applicants, it's a public hearing, if they can't participate in it, I don't know if it can go on.
Oh, you mean,
That's what I mean.
yes, probably not.
Oh, then,
'Cause I-
then let's just table it for now. No sense in discussing something that we can't.
That's true for everything that's gonna come in front of you. You don't know what abutters are out there
No.
for and what they're not out there for.
So, Mr. Chairman, why don't we take a,
Well, no, let me just say,
5-minute recess?
that's just a thought, all right? Secondly, if there is some low-hanging fruit here, let's attack the low-hanging fruit. When you know you're not gonna have likely any abutter issues and nobody's gonna say, oh, why did you guys do that?
Wow.
I didn't get the chance.
yeah, well, enforcement orders don't require a public hearing,
Correct.
so all of those could be discussed.
yeah, now we're
You're
getting
right.
into nomenclature. They don't require a public hearing, but they need to be discussed at a public meeting. And since we're not broadcasting, we're not a public meeting.
But I'm not even sure if I'm right on that. You know, I mean, I'm just kinda
Well-
spotting that as an issue and
So the meeting was publicized as
Can you hear
in-person-
us, Thor?
No.
Oh,
We hear him.
I can hear very,
Yeah,
very
so now we
weakly.
need.
I can hear
we
on
need to
my
turn him up
computer.
On our speaker.
Is he using, is this,
Sir, is the Google application that has the issue. I can't hear him, just barely, and everything is up.
Okay.
is this Google Meets or is this Zoom?
Google Meet,
Google Meets.
yeah.
Okay, so I don't know, I'm not familiar with that platform, but there must be a test mic feature on everybody's, so make sure on his end, he has to make sure his mic is up, and then he tested it.
Yeah, we've
On
we've
his end
tried
it
that,
is.
yeah.
what about everybody else out there? Can anybody?
It's working now? Okay.
Thor, we
Yeah,
can't hear
but
you.
we can hardly hear you.
That's just coming from
It's
my,
Coming
Just-
from your computer?
Just from Taylor's
Yeah, so this is an
computer.
internal thing.
Yeah.
He should be keep talking to see if I can.
Sounds like
is it
something's on.
something
Let me
with
ask the question.
I don't know.
Is anybody prohibited from attending the meeting?
No, and the only people who get the invite to be online
Okay, this
are
is what
applicants
Yep.
or their representatives. So it's
Gotcha.
not the
Okay,
general
But
So
public.
it's just the applicants we gotta worry
But
about.
since no one is prevented from coming
Yeah,
to the
the
meeting and
abutters,
participating, there is no harm.
Yeah, well, I mean, I
know,
say we go through and do it, I say we keep rolling anyway.
Well, that's where I'm going,
Yes,
that's
yeah.
where I'm
I
going
mean,
with this. What I'm saying is, if you
No,
choose
that's-
not to attend the meeting, that's your choice. You're not prevented from attending.
This
I
just
disagree,
apply- this
depends
just
on how it was
applies-
posted.
just
It
applies
depends
to
on how it was
applicants,
posted.
right?
If it was posted that this is a hybrid meeting.
Yes.
And that you can attend or you
It
can
is.
participate remotely,
yeah.
then they have made the option in accordance with the posting. And by being at home and if we can't provide the feed, we are not an open meeting.
Yeah.
I hate to say it. If we
But-
posted it that way.
But this just applies to applicants, like you said, this is, abutters don't have the opportunity to do this.
Right.
So, can we roll through and hit whatever we can? I mean, can Thord nod,
Let's look at
yes
the-
or no?
No,
Look
I
at the
think,
agenda, see what we can do.
yeah. Yeah.
The 1210 Osgood things we
can Does, continue.
That's only gonna take a second.
Well, I think, I mean, if the applicants or the representatives can't hear or participate, I don't think we should be doing the hearings.
Well,
We don't know if they can't hear, do we? That's what I was trying to figure out.
Now we got nothing. I don't know.
and before, at the last meeting, 1761, the fly in the ointment was potential debris on somebody else's land, correct?
Say that again?
On 1761, the last meeting, the only thing that was the fly in the ointment was the debris on potentially
Right.
somebody else's land
Right.
Staking out the boundary
and
line.
stake out
Taking
the
out
boundary
line
lines.
to find out. if
That
there
was, those were the only stickling points.
Right, and then, since that meeting, I found the outstanding order for the construction of the house.
Okay, so we basically, if there's no other issues, what else could there be? We could prove the COC minus pending?
No, we don't even
COC
have.
not-
We're not- we
So,
can't
so
do
this,
that.
all we can do is, I'll move to continue this hearing on this one for 2 weeks, and in the interim, you can tell them what they need to do.
Right.
Right.
Fair enough.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Okay, next one.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm gonna abstain until we get this working. I'm just gonna put that out there. I don't think this meets the public meeting law.
So we're dead in the water.
Well, then everything gets continued, so
Well, then we'll just do,
continuing's not
I
gonna
know,
harm
yeah,
anything.
we
well,
don't,
then we could do the amendment for
Mr. Chairman, I
240.
move that we take a 10-minute, not more than a 10-minute recess to work out technical difficulty.
we-
We'll return in 10 minutes, and if it's been resolved, we'll move on, and if not, we'll probably just have to adjourn.
We can do the request to continue. There's no date to be determined for 1210 Osgood Street? We can do that, can't we?
They've
Well,
already
that-
requested it.
They requested it,
they did.
to be
but-
determined.
And, right, and canvassing all of
For
your.
the sake of 10 minutes, let's think of, let's work this out. I'm very uncomfortable moving forward.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
I mean, we do such a good job, I hate to screw up on technical
Well,
difficulties.
it can be important to make sure you're crossing your Ts and dotting your Is with that meeting law.
So do we need a motion for that, or can you just gavel a 10-minute recess?
Yeah, just gavel a 10-minute recess.
Gavel a 10-minute recess
Yeah.
to fix the technical issues, or
Yeah.
not?
Yes, I think we should take, recess for 10 minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous.
We need one of those little signs to put in front of the camera.
All right, so we're
Back in
on
10 minutes.
recess.
Back in 10 minutes, that's
We're
exactly
on
what.
recess. 41 by 28 addition off to the westerly side of the house in the outer reaches of the buffer zone. The addition will be about 94.38 feet from the BBW at its closest point. Reviewed the wetland line, it's accurate. No other resource areas on the site. There are various perimeter fencings in the front, the side, and the rear that I think need to be placed on the plan. I spoke to the engineer this afternoon. He will get that on the plan.
He was on the call, but he got bumped,
I know.
so he'll be on tomorrow to place those. Everything else was already placed. I have 2 fences that he has to get a fence in the front yard that I added. Everything else was existing when I moved in, so
Right.
he will add those to the plans.
Right. And then there's just 3 areas of yard waste that need to be picked up. And so the engineer said, we agreed that, you know, we would open up, continue to the next meeting, give you time to do the yard waste pickup.
It's almost done.
And then
I didn't know
he,
you could dump your grass in the back of my
in the
yard, so-
25, in the 25. You can find another spot, just
No, it's
can't
fine,
be
I
the
got plenty
20.
of spots.
You do have plenty of
room, so-
spots, yes. And the engineer will get the fences on the plan, and then at the June 8th meeting, we can close, and I'll have a decision ready. So I don't know if you guys have any questions about the project?
Question in the statement. Statement is there's an abutter, Joanne Lynch, no relation to me whatsoever.
Okay.
But in that, right below that name there's a shed shown. Is that
Okay, that
pre-existing?
shed, yes, and I've gone back as far as 2001, and it was there.
Okay. Those are my only 2 questions.
There's two sheds, right?
2 sheds, and they were both there in 2001, and probably before.
Okay.
I'm all
Jack?
set.
Yeah, just comments, really. This is a very doable project. I think part of the pre-construction, releasing you to start the project, there would be an inspection by our staff to verify that the debris pile has been removed. That's my first comment. My second comment is, this is a tough plan. I mean, I'm glad somebody highlighted it, because
I know. It's busy
it was
and
hard
small.
to see what was the house,
Yeah.
what was.
It was a lot of ads. I had to do the wetlands, I had to do the fencing, I had to do the buffer zone, so I had to
I
go
mean,
back there 4 times to get add-ons.
I mean,
It's a
the
tough
engineer
one.
chose a 8.5 by 11 format. I mean, it is to scale, but it's small and busy.
Yeah, it's,
A 20 scale plan would solve it.
I mean, you can ask him just to do a bigger plan.
Because
With the
we
rehouse.
typically get busy plans from this.
Yeah.
okay. If that could be remedied in concert with adding the fences,
Yeah, the one-
that would be
Yeah.
it'd be
No,
really
you're
good,
right.
because, I mean, these are all official documents.
Yeah.
They're registered with the Registry of Deeds.
Okay.
And to have a clear plan is very important, so,
Need 1 to 20 plan?
yeah, scale 1 to 20.
Okay.
That's all.
Yeah.
All set.
Okay. I mean, I know what a construction access is, but that's fine. I can see where it can go. Sean?
No questions?
Brian?
No questions.
So
Motion?
continue to
Yeah,
the 8th.
What's that we need to continue?
Continue to the 8th.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous.
Great, thank you.
Great, thank you. Yeah.
The other thing too is if we're just continuing
Oh,
to
yes.
losing an issue,
Okay, great. All right, thank you very much.
public has the next opportunity.
Right, yeah.
Public, as long as we're not closing it.
Yeah, we're not gonna do anything.
Next one is 242-1845, 240 Abbott Street.
We don't get to.
All right, so this is one that we,
Don't have.
the engineer
God,
was
Jesus
going to
Christ.
be remote, and we don't have him right now.
So let's table this in the hopes we get.
Before we table it, I just want to read it because I had a couple questions on this one. Did you get to talk to Mr. Pugliese?
Yes, we got more information on the nature of the sewer lines out there, so, and we'll clarify. when we get to discussion.
The applicant's rep was on the remote
Yes.
line and is no longer with us,
Yep.
so
So we gotta continue
we
that.
gotta just table it until
Yeah.
later in the meeting.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman.
Well, if we do recommendations, I have an issue, but I want to discuss it with him. This is a,
But I don't think we can do that
We
right
can't
now,
because the applicant's not with us right
here.
now.
We
So
have to,
we-
we have to, we have to table it.
well, I know we have a table, but I just soon make the commission aware. This is a force main. We don't know who owns it.
Can we do that during the, when we actually
Yeah, we'll-
do the hearing? I don't want to corrupt anything.
Okay, okay. I know this is gonna be a sticky.
We'll remember to bring it up.
I think it's gonna be a sticky slope.
All the more reason that we're gonna do it right.
Next one is amendment, I guess I can make the motion, because read it, because I'm not gonna vote. 242-1692-1210 Oscar Street, request to continue to a date to be determined.
So moved.
And I'll second it. Hal will count the vote.
What's that?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And that is unanimous to be continued to a date to be determined.
Next one is RDA for 128 Bridges Lane.
So the applicant was going to join us remotely. Oh, you are? Oh, great. Come on down. All righty. Let me, okay. Let me just pull up the plan.
Were you remote and then came down when you couldn't hear and see? Yep.
Here the whole time.
Let me just pull up the plan and then I'll give you a rundown on things. All right. This project involves removal of improperly installed aluminum flashing, old plywood underneath the sunroom, and replacing the rim joist, reinsulate, and reinstall aluminum flashing. The work also involves replacing door frame, trim, and new garage door. Work at its closest point is 40 feet from the BDW. This is a very conservative measurement. I found actually a plan from 2003 under an RDA for a pool. I don't know if you recall that. That plan would have been great. So I included that in your package just so you understand that there's a slope down to the wetland. And that plan showed that the back porch was out 50, I believe. But in any case, it's an existing structure, no footprint change. It's really no ground disturbance. The footings are fine. And we didn't think it qualified for a small project after consulting with the chairman. So we had an RDA filed.
Do you have questions?
Yeah, I agree. It's, as much as you'd like to make it a small project, it isn't. And it's certainly not a porch, and it's not an other. But- So what really boils right down to is demolition of existing structure and replacing that structure in the same footprint, built properly, correct?
No, it says no demolition involved.
What's that?
There's no demolition involved.
But demolition of the rotted timbers and stuff.
Yes,
Not-
there's the removal of the rotted timbers, yes.
Yeah, but not demolition of the whole structure, just.
Correct, yes.
Just demolition of those rotted pieces and replacement.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the only thing that really comes right down is just be cautious of staging and where discarded materials go and new construction materials are stored, make sure they're, outside of that 25, but it seems
Oh,
like
yeah. Oh, yeah.
it's a
They'll
pretty
be on the
definite break in grade, right?
Oh,
It
yeah.
looks like it's, there's really only one place to put them.
Right.
That's all I have, pretty
Yeah,
straightforward.
and the dumpster will be kept in the driveway, and materials stored up on the flat part.
Yes.
So the contractor provided the contract and the work description.
It's almost up.
Okay, are you confident, how confident are you of the line, the weather line? Taylor?
I would say it's further crept up since the 2003 plan, closer to, again, that measurement was from a while back. So it's somewhere between 40 and 50.
Between 40 and 50?
But he's being ultra conservative.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a very conservative.
Okay, and you certainly have the setbacks, so that's why I asked the wetland line. So that seems to comply. The one thing I'm confused about is that, was the pool put in 2003?
I'm gonna ask the applicant that.
I believe it was. I mean, it's,
Because there's a,
You were the applicant for the pool.
yeah, no, I know we had a pool put in, and it's no longer there anymore.
oh, okay, that was the question. 'Cause
Yeah.
because
No,
the
we took down several years ago.
2019 photo doesn't have a pool there, and that
Right.
was my question.
Okay, yeah, no, it doesn't.
Nothing else, Mr. Chairman?
So just, the distance, the 40 to 50 feet approximately, where's the drop? Where is you describe a drop?
So it,
Toast.
so you see the lawn area
I do.
out back? The drop is
Right there.
here.
Yeah. And at the bottom, so the area we're talking about, is it BLSF or BVW?
BVW.
BVW.
Because
This
that's
is
what,
an intermittent stream.
Bridges
Intermittent
Lane,
stream,
that's Mosquito
BVW.
Brook back there, isn't it?
That particular stream closest to this is not riverfront. No,
But-
this is an intermittent stream.
Yeah, that's completely dry in the summertime.
Yeah,
When you go down Bridges Road, is your house on the left or the right?
Left.
It's on the left. That's Mosquito Brook.
It is, yes. It's mosquito
it
proof.
doesn't get that close, though.
But I'm just saying, it may not change the project, I'm not saying it does, but that's, at the very minimum, that's bordering land subject to flooding back there.
Let me turn it, hold on, let me just triple check that.
There's no ground disturbance on this project.
No,
And
there
that'd be
isn't.
fine, I just wanna make sure we get it right
Yeah.
for future.
Mosquito Brook is south. That's 128 Bridges Lane. This is Mosquito Brook.
Just a tributary to it, intermittent figure to it.
Yeah, well, that's still, I got you, I'm with you.
Is this a big
That's Greenbelt. That's all Greenbelt over there. So this could be BVW, it's far enough away. Sorry.
So it's an intermittent stream that probably feeds into the wetland that connects. So they're right here.
Yeah, I'm just trying to,
I just had a flashback.
okay, I see where we are now. All right,
Okay.
Brooks over here, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, BVW.
Okay.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for showing me that.
Yep, no,
No questions, all set.
All right. I don't remember. Did you, just not related, did you own this house when that addition was installed? Just my own personal.
No, that was, I'm not sure if that was an addition or the original construction, but we've been there about 31, 32 years, and that was there.
the reason why I say that, don't hire the guy that did the job the first time.
It was probably the builder that did it
Oh, my
first.
God, I
It
can't,
probably, well, no, when it was sided back many years ago, that's what messed it up, is that flashing was on the wrong way.
Right.
So water's running down, and rather than running off, it's running in
Yeah.
to, behind the, underneath the sun porch, so.
Understood, yeah.
it certainly was. No questions.
No
Sean?
question.
Ryan? Okay, we need a,
Recommend closing the hearing and issuing a -3 with pre-construction conditions. There's no ground disturbance. I don't think we need erosion controls, and then a post-construction visit.
So moved.
Second.
all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Amy.
Thanks. Glad you showed up.
Are we back online, Amy, do you know?
We're good?
We
The
are.
producer
So
says we're on.
If you want to take it back to where we left off,
Yeah.
Where
did we-
We're gonna readdress that.
which I think was 1761 Salem.
We,
We were gonna table that, I thought.
Yeah, but we're back on now.
Oh, so we
Yeah.
can, so we can close it out, maybe?
we can
Oh, I
complete
think
the,
they're gone.
We continued that, and we continued
Yeah, we,
You wanna
I,
see
three Salem.
Want to see if Thor's on there?
he's not. I texted him to let him know that we continued and asked for a seat.
so we should actually go back to 240 Abbott.
240 Abbott Street.
I think that's where we want to go back.
Is Steve on online?
We're gonna find out any minute now.
Bill.
393 Salem, we can do it with either, right?
Yep, those are the two.
Yeah, we did.
I thought we did Salem.
No,
We closed 393.
we
Well,
didn't-
we continued.
Right, yeah. but
The
it's
applicant was here and we
Right.
We
continued.
continue 393.
There's only two that we have to worry about. One is 1761 Salem Street, the other one is 240 Abbott Street.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
So we need, we need Steve on this one.
Bill,
Or Bill?
All right, if not, then let's just
Bill-
go back
Bill.
down to 72 Patton until they come on.
Okay. All right, so we have an RDA on 72 Patton Lane.
72
all
Patton.
right, they're here.
This guy's surveyed everything.
Hi.
Well, no, it's,
All right. All righty. 72 Patton. All righty. This project entails construction of a second-story addition to the existing garage. The existing roof will be removed, and the ceiling in the garage, which is rather high, will be lowered to accomplish livable space for the addition. Staging will occur in the driveway, and lawn on either side of the driveway slopes towards the driveway, so I don't know if erosion control is required, sloping away from the wetland. Work is in the outer reaches of the 100-foot buffer zone to beat bordering vegetated wetland that is located at the rear of the house, and then the outer reaches of the riverfront to Boston Brook located across the cul-de-sac. Most of the mature plantings at the corner of the garage will be preserved at the homeowner's wish, but the taller tree may be cut or trimmed. And I will, so we have the structural plan up showing the existing roof line and then the proposed roof line. And the site plan from when the pool was built, so we have, existing conditions plan to show that. And I don't know if you have any questions. The homeowner's here with us this evening.
No foundation work, just take the roof off, second addition, new roof over it.
Yes.
Similar question though, your driveway's right in front, so any storage of lumber's gonna be in the driveway, probably not in the backyard where the wetland area is.
Right.
So they're just gonna be careful of that.
Yes.
I'm all set.
Okay.
Construction dumpster the same.
Yes.
Should be driveway, yeah. No current violations on the site, sheds, dumping piles, no? Okay, no more questions.
Yeah.
I have no questions.
I have no questions.
No question.
No questions.
Motion.
So recommend closing the hearing and issuing a -3 requiring a pre- and post-construction inspections with the applicant and contractor, and that all dumpsters and materials shall be kept in the driveway.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
All right?
Opposed?
That'll all come out in writing. I know you're taking,
Yeah, no, no,
you're taking
no,
notes.
yeah, that will be spelled.
That'll spell out.
Yeah. Okay. So, okay.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We have yes, ayes, no, any opposed? No.
We did it.
So it's unanimous.
Unanimous.
You're all set.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. COCs. 242 is an old one, reissue. 242622, reissue COC.
So this order governed the construction of the house at Lot 26A, which is now 643 South Bradford. On January 5th, 1994, at the meeting, the commission voted to issue a certificate of compliance. I attached the minutes in your packet. We have documentation that the bond was released as well. We just don't have the physical certificate, so we need to reissue. It's under agreement and about to transfer, so they wanted to be able to.
Understood. Want me to just move it?
Yeah.
I move that we grant the reissued COC for 242-622, 643 South Bradford Street.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next one is 2421710,
With historical.
0 Main Street, the boat ramp, DPW boat ramp.
Alrighty. The order, issued in September of 2017, governed the removal of a boulder embankment and replacement with a Duragreen paver ramp for emergency access to the Merrimack River for the fire department and other emergency responders. Pavers will be filled with loam and seeded or turf grass plugs. The work was in the riverfront, bordering land subject to flooding and engine bank. All impacts are temporary, and the finished grades will match the existing site grades. So we have an as-built plan. I can't flip it, sorry. The site is stable. The turf pavers are functioning very well. Grass is growing throughout them. And everything's stable. Erosion controls are removed.
Thank you. Joe?
Looking at the photographs, I would say that's a successful project, no question.
Yeah, 'cause
Good
that
job.
was-
No questions.
No?
No question, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, nice job.
No question, sir.
All right.
No questions.
Motion.
I move that we grant the COC request for 242-1710 North Main Street.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Okay, now comes fun time.
And when we come back to, no, we still,
We'll flip the page.
Yeah, we'll just keep going, and if there's somebody around, then
Nobody's back yet.
Let's
nobody's
see, what
back,
did we
nobody's
skip?
on.
we have some folks that are back here for a second.
Yeah, the
but-
enforcement orders.
Oh, EO, okay, EO, gotcha, gotcha, received.
Looks like Thor
Oh, well, there's people sitting here too. So let, enforcement order, 50 Peterson Road.
Yeah, have a seat right here. Make yourself at home, relax.
All right, let me just get a picture. Okay. On or around May 7th of this year, the commission was made aware of some violations within the BVW consisting of cutting invasive Phragmites, importing of mulch, and planting non-native fruit trees. We visited the property, met with the homeowner, asked them to cease any further work, and issued a violation letter asking them to appear at the meeting this evening. They've been very responsive and cooperative thus far. The commission will recall that this property was part of the Nadine Lane subdivision, and there was relaxed no disturb zones and no build zones. So the no disturb zone was reduced to a 15-foot no disturb zone, and the no build zone was reduced to a 25-foot no build zone. The existing stone wall that you see in the photo is the wall that you had required from when the house was constructed that demarcates those zones. And at this point, it's a Phragmites marsh. And it's extensive behind other homes. You know, there's not a lot that can be done to.
All the way up to Willow Street and up to 114.
Right, so it's
That's
already, you can see in the picture, it's already sprouting through.
So this
with the frag.
photograph, Amy, is that all on their property? Is that all their property, or does that
Yes.
blend into something else in the back?
I think it is all on their property. Let me
Yeah,
pull
the
it.
plant just came out every day, you know.
Yeah.
I think 2 weeks later, you will see that all the plant will come out, the cover, the whatever.
Yes.
It's already come out. Yeah.
I'm with
Every
you.
day it's changing. Yeah.
Al, to answer your question,
Yes,
so, remember this was a PRD?
Yeah.
It's actually, PRD before it was a 40B, before they introduced
Right, the
it.
planned residential development,
Yeah,
yes.
that property line is just behind the wall,
Okay,
so that line of Phragmites is in
Is
where the
well
fruit trees
within.
are, is real
So-
close to the property line. So even though, so what we look at, the extensive Phragmites is way off
so,
onto
but the
someone else's property.
Phragmites swamp, is that part of the open space? Because if it's a PRD, there should have been, open space that was assigned to the town as part of,
this is the property line, isn't it?
This is the property, yeah.
See,
So
I
remember there was,
outlined it in-
there was Meadowwood,
Yeah.
and then there was Nadine came in, so this may actually be part of the Meadowwood open space?
gotcha.
So that's.
Because
the stone.
I remember there was a big chunk of land there that was, as part of the PRD, that was donated to the town.
Yeah.
In exchange for the tighter zoning.
Densities, for the
Okay.
densities, yeah.
The density, exactly.
So that's the stone
I-
wall.
I would say you're probably right. I would say
Yes.
they
This
made
is
the
the Bethel
property
Road
line
neighbor?
the stone wall.
Well, that is, okay, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
And I'm
This
thinking
is-
that the swamp is town land.
Yes,
Probably,
I think you're right.
but let me just make sure you know what you're looking
Yeah, thank you. It's always
at.
good to me.
This is the stone wall.
Yep, gotcha.
This was the erosion control line.
Yep.
So the plantings and
Is
the
in
mulch are
between.
well on their property because
Right.
this is the property line
I see.
in yellow.
So when I look at,
okay?
when I look at this photo, and I try to,
It's like right on the other side of this.
yeah. See, I
So
would've
it's on
thought, they
property.
were doing the town a service.
No, it's on their property.
May I have a question here?
Yes, go ahead.
One second, and then, we ready to take questions from the?
I think we were going around.
Oh, sorry.
Well, Jack, any questions?
I guess just a question about, more to you, Taylor, about controlling these things, or just stopping the advance of Phragmites. Are there some, are there some methods that are accepted that are fairly successful at doing that we might apply here?
The only successful method that I know of and have used is through the use of wetland-approved herbicide, selective stem treatment, wiping. But with this large of an infestation, it's
With it.
Yeah.
impossible.
worth
It's
it.
going to keep coming back.
Is there no way to build a barrier of some kind that
I
could?
mean,
We
there's
could-
a root barrier, you could
we could
possibly do
try
a
to
root
do a
barrier
root
to
barrier.
protect your
I
lawn and
don't
foundation.
have experience working
Yeah.
with root
Right,
barriers, but
right.
Yeah.
I know that could be an option. The problem then becomes treating what's in the mulched area,
Gotcha.
you know.
We had there was a consultant that we also had used as an interim administrator, Mark
Mark
West.
West.
Mark West.
Mark West, not the wine.
Remember Mark did Mark did a demonstration project on
He sure did.
a different piece of the same Phragmites swamp, but it was over on Willow. And he planted some higher story hardwoods, native
Oh,
species,
okay. To
and left the
shade it
canopy. And what he was doing was a demonstration project to see if there was any benefit. And underneath the canopy, he did get some die off,
Mm,
marginally so.
okay.
That was the
It's
only
such
thing.
an aggressive,
Yeah.
invasive plant.
Yeah, he had a great idea. We gave him the green light to go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, we haven't seen him in a long time.
I have no more questions.
Right, Al?
Good, good.
Right, this is way, way before my time. I'm looking at the property line, the 25-foot is on the inside of the wall, so it must have been, they must have put that wall up. And that wall goes the whole length of, around all the other houses too?
Yes, it runs all the way along.
So, to me, it seems like
We required them.
you required the wall.
We did.
Yes, the
So
wall
you
was-
required the wall to keep people out of the area, which is in the 25. So, I
Well,
don't.
Is that a
So
revision?
we're gonna recommend that, you know, if you wanna save your fruit trees and plant them somewhere else, go ahead. I don't know, if
I
it's
say
worth,
just-
I don't know if it's worth removing the mulch
I say
because
leave
it's,
the mulch, it's just gonna fill
it
right
just-
in.
right,
It
it'll
already
fill
is.
back in.
It already is.
It's already started.
Yeah,
It's
I
already
can see it, I can
coming
see it
out.
right
a few
here.
feet high. The
And
That
plant.
stuff, that stuff goes through hot top, so I know, it's,
Because the fruit trees are gonna go south real
We
fast.
can cut the trees if
They'll
we
grow.
want. We'll listen to your guys' decision, right?
Just
we-
move them.
Just remove all the
Just
trees.
move-
Okay.
Yeah.
Leave them
well,
on, my opinion.
I would, because
I do too.
they're only gonna die. So if you wanna save your
Yeah.
trees and
Plant-
plant them somewhere
plant
else on your
somewhere else.
property, it'd be beneficial.
Yeah, okay.
Because the invasives are gonna kill them.
Yeah, but I showed to the tailor, if that tree is not there, the nature tree will come up. Every year, there's a lot of nature trees will come up. You don't need to plant any tree there, they will be like, you don't know what kind of type of tree will come out by itself.
Well, just for future reference, that wall was put there for a purpose. The wall was put there for a purpose to keep people out of the other side of the wall.
So that's why I have another question. I'm not saying I didn't have, I know I have violation. For your knowledge, when I bought the house, right, actually there's another wall. There are two stone walls. Even deeper, there's another wall. I was told that my
Says there's
boundary
another wall in there.
is here that deeper wall, not this apparent wall. Apparent wall to that deeper wall is my property, I pay tax, but I cannot touch it. I know I cannot touch it, I should not touch it. But it's my property. That's when I bought the house, the map told me, and I showed for the tailor, there's another deeper wall
There's another
inside.
wall over here.
Yeah, I thought it was
Well,
erosion
the
control.
thing of it is,
So there's another
There
wall.
there are two walls.
Okay.
They're even further, even further.
I absolutely
Yes,
believe it.
yes,
I believe it,
yes.
absolutely.
all right, well, even,
Total surveillance.
regardless of how many walls
We
are
know
You
there.
can see my
He was the guy
acres,
that used to move
the
flags.
acres, my side, including
He had a
is
plan here
is
earlier, it was a
to
little
the
busy.
second wall, not to this first wall.
All I'm trying to say is that the 25-foot is on the inside of the wall that we have the picture of. And 25 is no disturb.
I know, I should not do
so
anything there.
I would be, it's
15 on
It's 15.
It's
So the
reduced.
plan is
Yeah.
showing
Yeah.
25, but
Yeah.
the order of
I believe
conditions
it's
is 15.
Yeah.
So
It's a
Just
reduced,
remember, there was
yeah.
a
There was a
PRD, this was a
PRD,
negotiated line.
all right, but even
Density-
15 feet.
This was the Wild
The
West back when it was
25
done
is
in
in
the
pretty
90s.
good. I would say the wall is, they put that wall for a
Yes,
purpose.
exactly, we required it.
The wall was required,
Yes, it
absolutely, the
was.
wall was required.
So the people wouldn't go on the other side of the wall.
Correct.
It was to,
So
Okay. It
was a
our rec-
physical
so-
boundary.
it was a barrier. It was intended to be a barrier.
So
That's
our,
that's what I'm saying. I mean,
It is intended to be a barrier.
so let him go in there and take his trees out, and just to remind them that you can't
And
go
so
on the
our-
other side of the wall anymore.
Yes, no,
You
no,
can't dump your clippings, you can't dump your leaves, you can't,
yeah,
just let it, because it won't take long for these guys to take over anyway.
Just to take a tree
Yeah,
out.
yeah,
right?
Take the trees out.
I have another question, because the neighbors, right, they dumped all of you know, when they cut the grass, they dump the grass in.
Oh, is that number 30?
I think they're up next.
They're up next.
No, that's not me, that's neighbors. They
Yeah,
dump
well,
the-
you're 50, we get 30 on the agenda also.
They should have not dumped it, right?
They're not-
Right,
No, they
right,
can't.
No,
Okay.
you're
They're
right,
up
no
next.
dumping.
They can't, right?
no.
They can't.
no, They
But
They should
if
be
it's number 30, they're on the agenda.
35, but anyway. So staff recommends that, the fruit trees be removed, planted elsewhere on the property, on the house side of the wall. I guess we can just
Let it
leave
go.
the mulch, because
Let it go.
the
It's
frag
gonna-
is just
it's
gonna
gonna
take it
grow.
over.
Let it
And
fill
perhaps
it.
we could have some pressure-treated posts with our markers.
Right.
Because there aren't any markers out there now.
So moved.
I just have a couple of questions.
Yeah,
Sure.
So obviously wetland lines change over time. Is the wetland now at the stone wall boundary, would you say? Or is it, this is showing it probably 15 feet away maybe?
I would say it's closer to the stone
Okay.
boundary, yeah.
It gets tricky with these no disturb zones when they're recorded 30 years ago and the wetland boundary changes, right? So the question is, do you go with what the order, strictly what the order says, or do you use this whole, what the original house plan says? That's one question. The second question is, this is showing a 25-foot no construction limit, but it's not showing the 15-foot no disturb limit. So I'm curious as to whether or not what they did was actually within 15 feet of this wetland boundary. In other words, it may not be in the no disturb zone.
So this is an as-built plan that we have, that you guys have. It's an excerpt from the as-built plan.
So what year was this?
Oh, jeez.
It was
That
probably
was-
improved in the mid-90s, and they probably built it out late 90s, early 2000.
So if let's
My
say,
recollection, I mean-
let's say we're using this line and everything's good here, the stone wall is probably maybe within 20 feet. I guess what I'm saying is I'm not confident that what they did is within 15 feet of this wetland boundary. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it
Right.
could be approved or that we would approve it. I'm just saying,
It looks further upland to me.
right. And the other question is, if it is wetland now, where they put it, I think the mulch should definitely come out. So those are my questions. If it is still upland, I think that I'm okay with the mulch staying, but if it's actual wetland, if the wetland boundary moved up to the stone wall and they filled wetland to put the mulch in, I think the mulch has to come out.
Do you think that would do more harm than good, excavating that out?
No, I mean, the Phragmites is gonna come back no matter what you do, but the mulch is, it's just like mulch in a garden bed, right? It's to keep things from growing up. Even Phragmites, I mean, it's not natural soil. It's technically wetland fill if it's in the wetland, and unless we're going to approve wetland fill, it needs to come out.
Is it in the wetland?
That's the question.
Yeah, I would say it's
fact
in,
that
I think the
Right now.
wetlands crept up.
The fact that the
Yeah.
Phragmites are emerging through it,
Yeah.
it's hydric soils, it's
Yeah,
wetland.
the wetland has crept way up since
Yeah.
the plan.
So, I mean, if we want to be conservative, I think we say remove the mulch. That's really what I was sort of getting at, but also, it brings up the question, how do we want to handle these situations where the wetland line is moving over time, and therefore the no disturb and no construction is moving over time
So
as
they-
well?
Case by case.
And essentially,
Yeah, right, exactly.
So we went, first major step was the bylaw, creating the no disturb and no build setbacks. And then from there, we found it very appropriate to put physical barriers
Right.
in. In the beginning, they were fences.
Mhm.
They weren't good enough. Posts around, then they became more substantial fences, then they became walls. This one
Right.
is the subdivision where you haven't heard the stories, but all my colleagues here have. This was the subdivision where we required they show us a cross-section of a 2-foot boulder wall. And show us it, because this was a pile of crushed stone. And we went out on the as-built and we said, this is not a wall. And they said, tell me it's not a wall. So we fought tooth and nail to get the wall that's built.
Yep.
So this is the evolution, this is the project where it evolved to a physical, substantial wall. And the thought always being, that's the physical barrier.
Right.
We know the wetlands are gonna change, but that line down it is the line forevermore that you shall never cross.
Yep, gotcha.
So whether the wetland moved closer, the physical boundary is part of the permit and the certificate of compliance, that's the boundary.
Right.
That is the limit.
Got it.
And that's what we've held. But you raised a good point that because the wetland has crept up to that point a little further than back in the day, they have in fact filled that, what is now a wetland.
Right.
And technically, you're absolutely correct. In my mind, knowing it was that, I'm just saying, what benefit are we getting by pulling the mulch out? If it was sand or soil or, you know, inorganic material, I'd say it absolutely has to come up. But the fact that it's mulch and it's gonna break down and decompose, and the fact the Phragmites is already coming through,
Yeah.
I don't see any real benefit to taking it out, other than creating a disturbance.
It doesn't seem to serve as fill, it seems to serve as Phragmite abatement.
Temporary.
Yeah.
Well, right now, it's losing.
I think my concern with that though is the next time somebody comes in and they put mulch in a wetland, it's sort of like, well, they were allowed to do it,
Yeah.
right? So,
But the plan came out will cover all the
It's
stuff.
already covered.
And
Yeah.
right back September, you won't say anything. It's fully covering. I bet you, yeah.
Again, break it.
Natural attenuation.
I think we'll make more of a mess if we screw it. I think we just let them take the trees out and call it they could. Well, Taylor, you wrote that.
And I think,
The mulch isn't very deep.
It's few inches.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna rot, it's gonna go, and if it gets wet, it's gonna rot even faster.
Well,
If you come back in a year, there'll probably be any trace of it.
and I think
Ryan's point is well taken, though.
Oh, I agree.
That's not, that's, he's not wrong.
He is definitely not wrong.
So the question is, where do we wanna,
well, we'll see if the next 35 Peterson, that it's sort of the same situation, it's a mulch.
This one's worse, but.
Import.
so the
It's
mulch, say no,
And-
say no,
but-
say no more.
But the wetland at 35 is much more, it's really a wetland, there, you know.
Well, this is really a wetland.
That's a well, you can see in
It
the
is, I
Phragmites
know.
that it's wet.
It's just not, you know.
It's just we don't like Phragmites, so I get it. But,
I mean, given that it is
maybe be
Phragmites,
consistent.
I'm willing to, you know,
Yeah,
You know, I
sort
think-
of forego
I
that,
don't
but,
know.
you know, I just think the point should be made. I'm sorry.
What were you saying? Go ahead.
I mean, you know,
Say
Brian
it.
has a good point, to be consistent, and I think this commission has always been consistent, and
Yep.
maybe the mulch should go.
if the depth of the mulch is only 3 or 4 inches, removing it would not be a big deal.
Right,
If the depth of the mulch were 2 or 3 feet, that'd be a different story.
yep.
So where it's only a couple of inches, removing the mulch should be no issue at all.
Wouldn't disturb the
Okay.
wetland,
And,
wouldn't disturb the
I
wetland.
don't think it's gonna disturb anything, because as we can see from the photos, there's really nothing that's gonna stop the Phragmites.
No, it's coming.
They'll be back 100% by September.
I want to be crystal clear on the terminology we're using. We're calling it mulch. They're wood
it's
chips.
wood chips, yeah.
Do not move them,
Yeah,
do
well,
not
yeah,
move those
I
into
know.
your yard, because your house will be full of carpenter ants.
Right.
Get rid of the wood chips.
Yeah,
You-
Yeah.
That's not mulch.
Sharpness
Yeah.
Pond Road.
yeah. So, I guess we need if everyone's agreeable on that, so we should provide a deadline by which that happens.
Well, I mean, we should be reasonable, that
Yeah, it's
I'd give anybody a minimum of 4 weeks or more to do the work. I wouldn't,
after that, you'll be wasting time because the Phragmites will be there hot and heavy.
well, I get it, but what I'm saying is, you know,
4 weeks?
just be reasonable, give them 4 weeks.
Oh, no,
They'll probably turn around and do it tomorrow, but give them 4 weeks, you know?
But the summertime is quite hot now.
Just don't do it in the rain.
Weather
They
will
do tomorrow.
weather will get hotter and hotter.
You
You
go to
give
the-
us 8 weeks, but we'll
You
try
want
to
to, you want to
finish.
get it done right away, right?
Well, yeah,
I can tell, you're a mad gardener, you want to get right out there.
I know.
I can tell.
Well, we're trying to finish it as soon as possible, but at the same time, could you give me 8 weeks instead of 4 weeks?
What,
Say
Just
that-
in case summer is too hot, we couldn't finish in 4 weeks.
4 weeks.
Because the weather, the temperature will be.
You have up to 4 weeks to get it all out of there, and
Okay.
restore it to its natural condition. You can take up to 4 weeks. You can do it all in one day if you want to, but you can take up to 4 weeks to complete it.
I just say,
Does that give you
because
enough
the
time?
Weather is getting hotter and hotter.
They'll do it
No,
tomorrow afternoon.
no.
the weather's getting hotter and hotter?
Yeah, I say
They'll be-
give us 8
so they'll
weeks,
do
but
it
we'll
sooner.
still try to finish in 4
Gonna
weeks.
be even
So
hotter.
they want 8 weeks.
The other thing,
Well, let's cut it in half.
6 weeks?
What's the first meeting in July?
The
What's the
July
only-
8th,
What's
right?
the only meeting in July?
July 13th,
13th.
So let's give them till July 13th.
okay, that's fair.
Fair
We'll
enough.
split the difference, And do July?
If you get it done beforehand, just call the office.
Right.
Oh, just the mulch too?
Mulch too.
Yeah, you gotta get the mulch out and restore it to its natural, natural
Yeah,
state.
once that out, it's already
I wouldn't
natural.
worry about that, returning to its natural.
I'm sorry to ask you to do it, but you have to do
I
it.
know, that's okay, but I just want to emphasize again, when I bought the house,
Yeah.
I was told the stone line is the second stone, not this first stone.
Yeah,
You know, I thought I would pay the tax for that area.
I know what
From the
you,
first stone to the second stone.
I can see the other stone wall, I can see where the confusion is. but-
Yes.
Just listen to Mr. Lynch as far as that wood chips. Get them out of there. Those termites love that stuff. So don't put it on your property near your house, or you'll be calling an exterminator.
Have somebody truck it away.
Yeah, you
Get
it
somebody
out of
with a
there.
truck to take it away.
Just that much, it is.
No, but if you put it in a pile near your
No,
house, it's
I
gonna
won't.
attract bugs
I
that
will
could,
buy a permit from town, down somewhere, town or
you
not.
could take it to the Sea
Which
Recycling
place
Center.
we can dump the?
Shoppers Pond.
Yeah, no, you got
Shoppers Pond
Recycle
Road.
center.
the recycling center.
You know, I need to buy a permit for that one,
Yeah,
right?
just throw it in a barrel and take it down there. Good.
So I don't need to, I don't.
Indulge
Check in with
You need a
DPW
permit
about
for the
permitting
city.
the first tier recycling center.
Okay.
Indulge
Okay.
for
There's
sticker.
They charge you for what?
$10 per
They're
year,
on
sister.
Osmo
$10
Street
per year to
next
get
to
a
Oh,
sticker.
per year.
You get a
I
sticker,
can check the
sticker.
website.
A sticker?
All right, let's move along.
Alrighty,
All right,
So,
we need a motion.
Okay, motion,
to
go ahead, tell us what we need.
Remove trees, install pressure treated 4x4s with markers, remove the mulch.
Yep.
And have all that done by July 13th.
So moved.
second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Could I understand two things? Move the trees, move them up, period.
Yeah, and
Yep.
we're gonna have you put some markers up, just behind the wall.
What do you mean, marker?
Little marker, they're
Little, it's a small sign,
medallions.
little sign.
Just little signs. They're not intrusive. They're just little markers saying wetland line,
Oh,
wetland.
you will
No
put it there,
disturb.
okay.
Yeah.
That's not my
We have
job.
them. We have them.
Oh, yeah, I did your job.
Amy, they're gonna help
Now
you.
he's gonna want another
They're
2
gonna-
weeks.
They're gonna help
My job is remove the mouse, remove the tree.
you. Taylor's gonna put the signs up for you.
What a
We'll
guy.
help you put the signs up.
Okay.
All right.
All right,
Put
thank
the
you.
whole line, that's the 6-7 house thing, not just my house.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
So we'll follow up with a letter.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Next one is 35 Peterson Road.
We
35
have,
Peterson.
wait one second, just wait 1 second, because we have, the applicant for 240 Abbott Street on with us. Can you
back?
hear
Oh,
us?
we're back running again?
Carl,
Oh, my.
can you hear us, Carl? No. What is he saying?
I can,
He
he just
can't-
typed in.
Oh, he can,
He said
okay.
yes, he
Okay,
can.
good, great. You might be muted.
Which one is this,
if you
Amy?
tried
I'm
to
sorry.
talk.
Which
So
one?
this is 240 Abbott.
240 Abbott. 240 Abbott.
That's the force main.
Gotcha. Received.
Remember, Lou, you had something you wanted to tell us about beforehand.
Now again.
So I'll
Now?
just mention real quick, that I think this occurs on 2 properties and we only have 1 property owner signature. So, I'm not sure it meets the minimum requirements for a complete application to open the hearing.
That's what I was gonna ask, because the person that owns the force main hasn't signed off on it.
Right, exactly.
So we're taking on an application that's moved, they have no right to tie into the force main without the permission. The people on 230 Abbott Street own the pen per letter from Tim Millett.
Yeah, I'm sure they have an easement of some sort to connect, but we need some sort of, either a signature or some legal instrument that allows
You
them
don't
to.
have any, on force mains, you don't have any right to tie in.
Well,
without
the
permission.
tie-in might actually, because there's 3 lines coming down the road, so the intention was to tie all the houses in.
Well, who owns the lines, though? See,
That I don't know.
See, that's the big question, because I have a force main out in the street. I put it in, it's my force main. None of my neighbors have any right to tie into it.
I think it's 230.
230
I think the owner of 230 owns, right, that was under his original order of conditions of
So
hers.
the force main was installed by 230 Abbott, and our DPW required that the owners at 230 install 2 additional force mains, so that all 3 houses that share that driveway would have a line to tie into.
So that was required by DPW.
Good thinking.
Yes.
Done.
But the owner of 230 still own, they made them have an opening that they could access the force main. That doesn't say they have the permission to use the force
Well,
main.
that was probably how they got the permit to put it in the first place. The DPW said if you want to put it in, you gotta put 3 stubs.
Yep.
Yeah, but that doesn't
But
give
he's
you,
right.
that doesn't give you permission to use it.
That's right.
That's only step 1.
It's only step 1.
It's only step 1.
Go back to the force main king
Gotcha.
in town here back in, 35, 40
Yeah,
years ago.
I know exactly who you're talking
Force
about.
mains were all over town, and
Yep,
they looked like municipal service, but everyone was private, and everybody had to pay an entry fee to get into them.
correct. You're absolutely right.
Carl?
I know, I live the
Yeah.
dream.
You live the dream.
Oh, no, he's still here.
Sorry, so what are we?
Yes.
Working
So I
on
don't think
something.
we can even open the
We
hearing.
can't even open the hearing.
Because of the similar situation as Lorraine.
Exactly.
Because the
Right.
work is within
It's shown on
jurisdiction
my
on someone else's
screen,
property as
Right.
well.
Correct.
Yeah, you can't just go get approval for something on somebody else's property without them.
That's like completely separate of the force main issue. It's truly an application issue.
Exactly.
So
And
the
then I think-
owner of 230 has to assent.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
we need their signature, or at least some proof of,
So it
some
sounds-
legal instrument that
Sounds like
allows
Mr.
them to
Green,
connect.
Mr. Green has to appear. That's what has to happen.
Yeah, I don't know who that is, but.
Does the applicant, can they hear us and understand
I
what's
don't know
going
now.
on? Maybe we should go back to our local one person here. that we-
Unfortunately.
Are we down
waited very
again?
patiently.
Does it say?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, let's
That-
move on to
that's-
35 Peterson.
So,
That's
Cable,
the
you
end.
gotta go.
Because we lost the applicant.
Yeah, we have one person here, sure.
Yeah, and it can't be opened anyway, so it's not, we're not even.
We're not losing anything that we didn't.
No, we're not. You can't even.
understood,
They
understood.
can yell at us afterwards if they have a chance,
Okay.
about why we should have opened it.
Catch me if you can. All right, so we're down again, so let's
So we're
talk,
going on 35
35 Peters,
Peters Street.
35 Peters.
Oh, boy.
Am I right, 35 Peters?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Oh, sure. Same idea.
Yep.
2.0.
Version 2 point.
Okay.
Bigger, much bigger.
So it came to the staff, conservation staff's attention that there was potential violations within the wetland, and the 25 consisting of cutting and removal of vegetation in support of wood chips, really, to create garden beds for ornamentals. We visited the property, we met with Ms. Sun, and we discussed the issues at hand. She's been cooperative, and she totally understands, that the wood chips have to go, all the ornamentals have to go. And this is part of the subdivision that received a 15-foot no disturb zone and a 30-foot no build zone, with the landscape wall. Let's see.
Which is no longer in place?
The stone wall was.
Yeah, I think the majority of them are there, but some part missed.
So people have been removing the stone wall.
So this is definitely in wetland. This property received some of the wetland replication that was required. So it's quite extensive.
I thought I was
If you
storing.
think about one person trying to remove it all by themselves. So we're trying to give Ms. Sun some time to tackle this. And And the mulch isn't, I mean, the wood chips, it's not a few inches, it's probably a foot.
Oh, no, that is, I would say that maybe about
Six
to eight, yeah.
6 to 8 inches.
In some area, but some area not much, yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm just
It seems to me,
scrolling through the pictures.
Maybe a little bit.
it seems to me we have a major restoration plan here to do. It- So, to avoid discussion, which you don't really, so where, you move the wall, correct?
Just a small piece, yeah,
Okay, well, that has to be put back.
yeah.
The
and-
mulch has to be removed.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Amy and Taylor probably already told you everything. We would just be telling you again. And how much time would it take you to, because it looks like you worked at it for a long time.
I know, yeah, I'm by myself right now, and, I definitely will work very hard to get it done, but, I was wondering, by fall sometime, because I have to get my neighbors, people try to help me, because otherwise, just myself will take.
I'm sure Taylor would help.
July
Uh,
13th.
July
July 13th, same as the other.
Actually,
she's
it was
got a lot
very
more.
nice.
She's got a lot more.
And she recommends
for
it.
the, large scale work.
Done, do it. Let's move it, let's move it. and do it.
All right,
So just,
so,
I have a picture up to show that this is looking into the adjacent property, and you'll see the stone wall shooting out, away from us.
Yeah, it's underneath.
And then it wraps around, and
underneath.
it's under the
Right,
wall,
yeah,
so.
right.
So I think, removing the mulch will uncover the wall, and, we can
8
get
inches?
some markers there.
All right,
And,
so what we'll have, what we can do is, you guys have to do it administratively. We just have to give them a date. So, how
Labor-
much
Labor
time?
Day? Labor Day?
Labor Day? So that give you till September.
September. Okay.
That gives you 2 months.
Yeah, I will.
3 months.
How about that? Yeah, I'll put this way. I will work very hard. Get, every help I can get to help me to do that. But by mid August, if I couldn't finish or some small things left, I will come back to you. For.
We'll give you more time.
Okay.
Amy, go
Thank
back to
you.
the previous picture.
It's a sad thing to say, but if you can't do it or you're not able to it, unfortunately, you're gonna have to hire
That's
somebody.
gonna take a machine, I
Give more
think.
time.
No,
I know,
it-
I'm
it's
saying
not-
that.
Sorry, that's not
She'll
just
do it,
wood chip. It's some branches, underneath
design
that.
the
So.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna give it till Labor Day. What's the first meeting in September, Amy?
I don't want Ms. Sun to walk away thinking that she's got till Labor Day to raise the question. This is a big undertaking. This is borderline really having a professional know
Yeah.
what actually has to happen out here.
I agree.
It's a lot of labor, there's likely a more than a light landscape work. This is probably a mechanized landscape job with some machinery and whatnot. It's an awful lot of work, and having done all of that, there's still restoration that needs to be done with getting the wetland replication area re-replicated. This is not as simple as just manual labor getting this stuff out in 3 months.
No, 'cause
Yeah,
it-
I think a wetland scientist needs to go in and figure out where the wetland boundary was.
And I don't want to waste money, but I think it goes that far.
How much fill needs to be removed, what area needs to be restored, and how have the soils been compacted to where they need to be, scarified or something. It's a lot. I do think some professional services may be needed. I'm not opposed to, doing this administratively, but as long as you guys are confident in being able to definitively identify where the wetland boundary is, and that would require digging and all that stuff, which is why I think professional services is probably a better route. And like I said, I'm not opposed to doing this administratively, but just remember that an enforcement order can be enforced, a violation letter cannot. So we need to, I'm not opposed to administratively handling this, but I don't think an enforcement order would be a bad idea given the impacts.
And I think that's ultimately what we have to do is ratify the letter, make it an enforcement order, correct?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's what
yeah.
I anticipated. They
Gotcha,
work out
okay.
with
I didn't know
with
if we were-
actual EO.
Right.
And,
And I'm not a big
Yeah,
fan
I-
of spending money on, well, a lot of my friends are consultants, spending money on consultants for the sake of spending money, when it can be put into good, reasonable, professional services to get the work actually physically done. But as long as they know that at the end, there's still some technical stuff that needs to be addressed, and that's with regards to the ultimate restoration.
Yeah, and I think, maybe that the professional services come in after the stuff is removed, just to take a look and see what species are there, what species might be good to plant. Maybe some areas don't need to be replanted if the stuff's already popping up, but I think that needs to be assessed.
So I think on debate, I think the removal of the material, let's do that in 2 months, leaving that 1 month window to better understand, because then you do hit the fall growing period for
Right.
for any replication you want to do.
Yep, yeah, I think that's reasonable.
2 and then 1, and then get into the fall to actually do that
Yeah,
restoration.
and then if she needs to request an extension, we can play that by ear, but I think that's a good
So removal
sequence.
by August 1st.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you should be able to give her a tentative plan of what you think.
so you want,
Give her an idea what you think has to be done. If she has to get professional services involved, that's her burden.
Removal by August 1st.
Right.
Plantings in by September 30th.
We don't,
We
we
need a
don't,
planting plan.
we don't know what, that's what I'm saying. If
Yeah, we don't
they
know.
can't do it in-house,
We could
then she's gonna have to hire somebody outside. So, by August 1st, we should have a good idea
So,
which way they have to go.
so working with the context of the very first way we discussed this, accelerate the removal of the material to August 1st, but they use that 1 month, so September 1st, Labor Day, thereabouts, that we have a replication plan done. Now, that may be a professional plan, that may be a plan that you guys work out together that makes sense, but one way or the other, we want to see that come that first meeting in September. And then from there, we can determine what the planting
Okay.
schedule looks like.
okay.
Does that make sense,
Yeah,
everybody?
I think
it
it's
does.
important
It does.
after the material is removed,
Just,
just to be able to
Oh,
letting,
identify.
yeah.
I'm letting you know, you may not think so, but you're getting a pretty good deal.
So,
Yeah, I'm just thinking like what I should do, to get it removed by, you said August 1st, right?
Yeah, you gotta get all the stuff out. And then Amy and Taylor will work with you to figure out if they can. If it's too much work, then you're gonna have to hire a professional.
The machine cannot be used, right? Have to be manually removed.
You could get a small machine in there, or a rubber track.
Small
Track.
excavator.
Not rubber, yeah.
A small rubber track machine could work in there.
And it would be good for somebody, Taylor or somebody, just at least go out when they first start doing that and make sure they're pulling
A
it away properly.
landscaping
and not
contractor
broken
would
in.
know what type of machine to use.
do a little
Right.
mini.
Right.
Just be careful who you hire.
I do think one thing that needs to come out of this, though, is figuring out exactly where that wetland boundary is/was.
Right.
Because that's gonna dictate future no disturb zone, right? So we wanna make sure we know where that is.
Just for that part, can we use the 97 original build as a default?
I'm sorry, what was that?
I mean, the house was built in 97, and there's Taylor just provided me the map for the wetland map for when the house was built. I was wondering, can we use the same line, like for as a default?
As a starting point.
Right, like kind of what we did at 50,
Yeah.
So wetland lines are typically good, in my experience, for like 3 to 5 years. And then after that, it's sort of, they need to be looked at again, because the lines move over time. So the line in 97 might not be the same as the line now, and even though, like we were talking about the no disturb and no construction setbacks, that's based on the original plan, but if the wetland line moves closer, it's still a wetland and it's still regulated as such,
Well,
if that makes sense.
if you look at this as-built plan, see the speckled dotted area that surrounds 3/4 of the rear and the side? That's wetland replication.
Okay, so it's
Right-
basically
that was
wetland
right
all the
up
way
ag-
around
That was
it.
right up against the required stone wall.
Okay. Al, Jack, and I were on the commission when this was done. If you guys, I'm sure you'll remember, there was land that they needed to fill, and then we made them do 2-to-1
Yes,
replication.
right.
And it was over the aggregate of the entire development.
Right.
So in this area, the replication area, which my pen's on, was all the way up to the
Yep,
road.
Yep.
And all
And
the
then
way
the
back.
Yep.
Okay, so it seems like it's
That
a
was the
pretty,
area that was filled.
it's a pretty defined boundary.
So this was all replication area. That's,
So wetlands
Which
right
is
up
this-
against that stone wall.
so it's all wetland, right up to that wall.
Gotcha.
If that's not to say that if the wall was still there, that it might not have extended under the wall.
Right, but this seems like, I mean, it's basically house, deck, wetland, so it doesn't really have a whole lot of room to move.
You gotta get,
Again, 30 years ago, but we can all sit here on our laurels and smile a little bit, but, and we told the developer this would be a problem. You're building a development that nobody's gonna wanna live in the future. You're gonna sell them immediately, but in the future, nobody's gonna wanna live surrounded by what you're doing. And they did it anyway,
well,
because they could.
all right, so we're gonna, so you
So-
got,
Do you need a motion?
So just,
Yes,
no,
I'm trying.
I just want to be clear that we're gonna hold 35 Peterson to that plan.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
That's the record.
The wall.
so I don't know if wetland delineation, and not to contradict you, but
No.
does it really matter? Because we're not going to start taking lawn away, even if the wetlands.
No, they got a
started
15-foot
creeping.
buffer
You know what I
anyways.
mean?
Yeah,
No, that- and
I
that-
think he acknowledged that.
That's stat, okay.
Yeah, I
all right.
clarified that based, I totally
Okay,
agree.
Okay,
Yep.
all right, I just
Let's-
want,
No, this helps.
save
Yeah.
money, save services where we can.
Totally.
And if you guys are comfortable with me and Taylor developing a planting plan,
okay.
you know.
Well, right now, we just have to worry about August 1st.
Let me just ask a couple questions. How long have you lived there?
2004, I bought a house. I think it's 17 years, something like
And you've been doing this work continuously over the 17 years?
No, no. I used to, work.
I'm just wondering how you got all that work done that fast.
not for 17 years, because only I would say about last 2 years, I start to stay home. I start to
So there's about 2 years worth of work there right now?
not that much. Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure if it took you 2 years to create it, how much time is it realistically gonna take you to deconstruct it?
Right,
That's why
by-
she wanted the fall.
And I think
Yeah,
that, and I
that's
think
by
that's,
myself,
that
yeah,
might not even
yeah.
be enough, because she's
Yeah.
doing the work herself.
Well, let's see what happens to August. then.
Yeah, I think we could just check in August
Check in
1st,
August
and
I
then-
think we're
First,
gonna have
go
to be,
accordingly.
I think we're gonna have to be flexible here, because
Yeah.
I think deadlines are gonna be just suggestions.
Yep. Yep, I think, yeah, staying flexible.
I'm just looking at the amount of time she's been there, and, you do something, do a little bit every day, every week, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, you got an acre.
Just as long as it doesn't last to perpetuity, because we made people replicate a lot faster than that. But we're being nice.
We can't,
That's what I just said to
we
her.
can't get blood from a stone, so just be
That's
careful.
what I just said. I just told her, you're getting a good deal.
I
So-
think
We know what that means, but we're right up against the line of what we should not be doing.
So
We're being very, very forgiving.
That's- but that's
So-
my.
So good faith on everybody's part, don't prove us wrong.
Okay.
All right, so we need a motion.
Amy, just tell us what you
Okay,
want.
So how's this? Removal of all mulch, non-native plants, materials, et cetera, by August 1st.
So job one is removal of mulch.
Yep.
Do we agree?
Yep.
With
And
the
then-
deadline of August 1st?
And then job two should be,
Reinstall the stone wall.
Yep.
well, reinstall stone wall,
Reestablish.
and/or do we want a wetland scientist to go out and auger? Or are we satisfied with just deconstructing the
No,
site?
I think we're just doing it now. I think we're just doing
So,
it.
so remove the mulch
Yep.
and
Reestablish the wall.
reestablish the wall.
By August
And
1.
then at least have our wetland scientists go out and have a look-see.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what level of restoration is required, and that would be by September
And that,
1st.
and that way,
Well, I mean,
Amy and Taylor can help her with a restoration plan.
Let's see if she gets, let's go, wait, I think she should wait. I think
Yeah,
she should
that's what
just
we
wait
would-
till August
Right,
1st.
that's the only thing I've said in the motion so far.
That's all we should
And I think
have.
we're gonna end it there, right?
Okay.
Yeah, by August 1,
Okay,
and then check in with the Concom.
For discussion, we're just looking at the scope of this and the pictures and everything. I would want to just suggest at this point that we do the cleanup in the fall and the planting in the spring, okay? So that we give her until November 1st to get all the clearing of the non-native plants, the mulch, everything like that. Give her as much time as we can. And then do the planting in the spring. I don't really think we lose that much. Nothing really happens over the winter.
Survivability of what's planted is gonna be that much better.
And I think we're gonna end up there anyway, because it's such a sensitive area. It sounds like a lot of it is intended to be manually done.
Yeah.
So I think that's a more realistic approach.
You good with that?
I'm fine with that, but as long as we see progress over time.
Yeah.
Why don't we just do that?
I will start to do it very soon, I mean, this week or next week. But, yeah, I think by November 1st, I should definitely, finish everything. And then, plant whatever, Taylor and Amy, asked me to put there if it's necessary. I definitely like to try everything, to restore the area. I like your proposal
So the condition would be removal of all invasives, non-native and mulch by November 1st. Define replanting with native species by November 1st or by,
Make sure the stone wall is reestablished where it should be.
yeah,
If we help her prepare a planting plan, I want you guys to review it and approve it.
Okay.
I kind of want
yeah. So, okay, so
that
then,
level of review.
so then remove all the
The mulch.
non-native
everything
and
else.
mulch by November 1st.
Yeah.
Establish a planting plan by April 1st of 2023? Would that be, is that doable?
I think
Oh,
the
yeah.
planting plan should be done, can be done sooner so they
Oh,
can
yeah, I
plant in
think so
April.
too, yeah.
Could be done sooner.
Because
Sort
if
of.
you have to order plants,
Yeah.
it could take a month to get the
And
plants.
reestablish,
February 1st,
and
February.
reestablish the wall.
And reestablish the wall.
Yeah, reestablish the wall, remove all of the offending, reestablish the wall, and have a planting plan, that's by November
Right.
1st. And then have a planting plan ready by February 1st for the commission to review.
And then
And then
plant the
plant-
restoration plantings by May 1st?
should be earlier, right? You plant things earlier than May, or, I don't.
You could get the dormant woody plants earlier in the spring and start planting those.
I'd throw in 500
Taylor, tell
pounds of
me,
wetland mix. I
what
just put it
would be a
everywhere.
better date?
I think
throw wetland mix everywhere.
survivorship,
maybe a couple
it's
plants
better
too,
to
but
plant in the
They'll
spring.
definitely see the whole.
They'll
area.
come.
But when?
So what
When
time-
is
what
the-
date?
I would say you can even start as early as March, April, because the woody plants can go in
So by May
March,
1st?
April. Yeah, I think May
No later,
1st.
no later.
No
May
later than
1st.
May 1st.
Makes
That's the same
sense.
thing. Let's-
And you
let's-
get the seed down before any invasives come in.
Let's worry about November.
Wetland mix will work too.
Yep, what's New
I
England
think we should
wetland
probably,
plants mix.
Add, if there is any heavy equipment used or even light equipment used, that you guys are notified, so you can go out and just, sometimes you never know what you're gonna get with a contractor, so
Yes.
I've gone out and just make sure they're slowly pulling the material back and not digging, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so, I mean, you don't have to stay there the whole time necessarily, but at least at first, so you're confident that they're doing that.
Even November 1st is the deadline for me to remove everything.
Yes.
I think I, like to use the manual way to remove it. Because I think the machine can get into my property, the sideway is very, only 6 feet, yeah, so tiny small.
Okay.
I don't know how can they, the contractor work on that.
All right,
Okay.
so we have a motion, Sean?
We do.
Okay, we need a second.
Thanks.
It was a long one.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll put this all in a,
I mean, I don't know. Wow.
okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hopefully somebody does.
We do it for August,
Yeah.
November.
That's a tough one.
No, yeah.
Recognize that handwriting?
All right, so two,
That wall was there.
So, when the mics are off,
That's mine.
How about bring up the form contract?
Yep.
what's next?
240 Abbott.
Go back?
Yeah. Okay.
450 Marble Ridge Road
No,
enforcement.
let's go back to 240 Abbott because we have the applicant
We have a
on.
live connection.
Let's just, I don't think he caught all of the commission's discussion.
Okay, 240 Abbott, okay.
Caught what?
The force main.
Want to tell me the good news,
Ron?
Well,
You know, since I'm the newbie, I mean, I guess I could.
All right, go for it.
Yeah.
Mike, wait, my question is, who's that with, Steve? Is Steve? Who do we have?
Yes.
So this
Can
guy
you hear
right
us,
here,
Carl?
Carl's on.
Carl?
He's the owner.
Well, Carl, can you hear me?
Hey everyone, yep.
Hey!
Here he is.
Success.
Greetings from 240 Abbott.
Okay, I have a question. You have the, oh, we just lost him again.
No, he's still there.
Are you still there? Okay.
Yep, I'm here.
All right, the force main is owned by 230 Abbott Street, correct? As far as the letter from the DPW. You have permission from the person on 230 Abbott Street to tie into the force main?
I haven't gotten that explicitly, no. I didn't know that was a requirement. I could
Well,
talk to them.
because from what the information that we've seen here, he owns the force main. The DPW allowed you to, they allowed the ports for future expansion, but you still have to get permission from the person that owns the force main. So you're gonna have to get something in writing from your abutter that says you can tie into the force main, because we can't even hear your application because it's incomplete.
Is it more than just get something in writing, or do they have to sign off on the application?
Yeah,
as
that's,
well?
I need a clarification
sign off,
on that.
yeah.
I want to make sure, what was your name?
Carl.
Carl, my name's Joe, how you doing?
Hi, how are you?
We really have two things at play here, and they're almost mutually exclusive, but obviously it's part of the same project. So, permission to file a notice of intent is made by the landowner as an applicant to do the work on their land. If you are proposing any work that's on land other than yours, it requires your signature as well as any other landowner that may be in ownership of that other land. So my question is the common driveway that comes in and the work that's in that common driveway all the way down to where your property, where your work is beginning to tie in, is that all on your land, or is that someone else's that you have an easement right to use? Is that your land or someone else's land with an easement right?
I believe it's the latter. I believe it's the easement right.
Okay, so whoever owns that land, if there is work proposed in that, and I think some of it is, then you need to have that other party also sign your NOI, which is that's our minimum threshold is for an application to be here, it has to be all of the owners. So you and whoever that other party is. Meaning, we can't even conduct a hearing. What we're having from this point forward can be informal at best, and we really probably shouldn't go much further. But since you've waited so long, the other issue, not conservation related, is your work that you're proposing is to tie into a pipe that's already in the ground in the vicinity of your driveway. And that pipe was installed by somebody else, and somebody else expense, and there is some question, if not, so much as a statement, there's some question of whether you actually have the automatic right to tie into it, or do you need to have some other secured right to tie into it? I know it was laid in for your purposes for the future, as was a third pipe, but that doesn't necessarily give you permission to tie into it. That was the intent of what the town wanted back when the pipe was installed. But if what we're hearing is it may be somebody else's ownership. And honestly, I don't think that has anything to do with this commission. Because we can, as long as the application is correct and all the landowners sign off, we can approve the work with conditions and let them work out the rights of whether they have the ability to tie into that pipe or not. Not our issue. The first one is very much our issue. If an application, an NOI, is before us that does not have all the landowners' signatures, we've recently been on that road, so to speak. And
Says it right in the narrative, it's off-site.
so we can't do it. Can't.
Described right in the narrative, it says it's 40 feet off.
Yeah. So I hate to say it, I think you need to go back to the consultant and sort through what an NOI actually does, and that is to, I say your consultant, Merrimack Engineering, your professional.
Your engineer.
And they know what an application for an NOI requires, and that means the other person's signature, and they need to get that for you.
So is that the kind of order of operations there? Is that, so have my engineer kind of revisit that, get the signature from my neighbor, and then from there, then we can kind of take the application forward?
Yeah.
And is that kind of rescheduling for next hearing?
You actually, what you need is, you need permission from your neighbor to tie into his force main.
And we
The
need a
pipe,
signature
the
on
pipe,
the
the
NOI.
pipes there, we believe the pipes there belong to your neighbor, he installed them.
And I think probably if they're gonna get a signature from that person, they'll have a conversation about all that.
That's where that conversation comes up.
Yeah,
That's
yes, it
exactly
does.
how it happens.
So one controls the other.
So you have to get, the first thing to do is get whoever owns the land on the common driveway, you gotta get him to sign your NOI application.
And that's it.
I like his screen where everything's blurred out.
And then you have to find out who owns the force main and get his permission
Says it right
to
there.
tie into it. It doesn't have anything to do with us, but you're gonna have to do that, or you open yourself up to a lawsuit.
Okay, so procedurally, what do we do? How do we proceed right now?
Nothing, we just can't open the hearing.
So this is not even an open hearing?
Nope,
It's
this
not
is
even
all just
before us.
conversation.
It's not even
We'll take
before us.
no
Okay,
action.
so we're gonna take no action on this until you work out that legal document, okay? That's the only thing we can do.
Right. And to be more precise, just need that second signature on that application.
That's what we're looking for.
All right, thank you. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, sorry.
Thank you.
All right.
So, I have a question about that.
So if you take the glass off, it's actually a focus.
Probably.
Renotice legal ad and abutters?
Renotice
so,
for what?
We didn't open
We're
it.
just gonna,
We didn't open it.
We didn't open it, it's not
We didn't
open.
it, so it's not open.
But when you send a butter notification and do the public notice, it says the date and when. If we opened it tonight and continued it, we wouldn't have to.
So we don't have a date certain right now.
Right.
This thing's going back.
He might not get the signature for 2 months.
Right.
So we, like,
Yeah, so, but as far as we're
he'll
concerned
have
here,
to renew it.
Exactly.
this filing just goes back to the office.
Yep.
Yep.
It's filed without opening.
yeah, I don't think they need to like resubmit all the materials. They just need to provide the signature and redo the public notice.
If it goes more than 30 days, they have to renotice.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
And what?
More than 30 days, they have to resend
That'll
out
be
that.
21 days, right? That's the.
He's gonna have to renotice.
Okay.
Right now, we don't have to do anything.
Darn,
Well, no, I take that back. Right now, we can't do anything.
right.
And they have to do a new
They've got to complete the
and
application.
re-notify their abutters.
Yeah, I think so.
Period.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we could, look into that as well, just to confirm, but I think
If and when it comes back to you.
the public notice and the abutter notification that they sent out was for this hearing. So
Yeah.
if we opened it, people could come.
Right.
Because we didn't open it, it's still left, the public notice almost didn't happen.
Right.
Yeah,
You know what I
he's got to
mean?
read notice.
Okay, gotcha, thank you.
All right.
All right.
All right.
All right, Carl, thank you. So keep me posted.
Thank you.
All right.
450 Malvern.
Yeah, that's one we just did. Next one is 40 Flagship Drive. Everything is the way it is.
There's no update.
So just the fines are running,
Yes,
and
I had
the
emailed
fines are
Wetlands
running, and we're up to about
asking what the
17,000.
status, and he said he would contact his wetland consultant.
Yeah, okay.
And we just sent them, I just had Amy send them a
I
letter
just, you know.
to let them know that we're still alive and we're not going away.
We don't have to take.
I know we don't, but I mean, at least we have a little paper trail.
The paper trail.
So we got-
Does the site continue to be stable?
Yeah, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
All right.
no
Yeah,
work,
exactly.
and it's
No,
stable.
we have not done 450.
We need 450 Marble Ridge.
Right.
Oh, I'm
So,
sorry.
yeah, That was Abbott, we just continued.
Oh,
So
okay,
we
oh, that's
gotta
right,
do
you switched
450.
over. All right, 450 Marble Ridge Road. My fault.
It's okay.
It's jumping all over.
Yep.
Yeah, it's too confusing here. We have,
Okay. So on or around May 3rd, Conservation Department staff became aware of unauthorized importation of fill into the 25-foot no disturb zone leading to the BBW and possibly creeping into the BBW in some areas. The fill has buried the bases of mature trees in a couple of areas. Staff visited the site to observe the violations, spoke to one of the homeowners, explained the violations, and told them to cease all work. We followed up with a violation letter, required installation of erosion controls. The homeowner has been fully cooperative, and we have erosion controls in. So we're at the point where, well, just as past filings, order was issued in '94, and there's another reduction in the 25 to a 10-foot no disturb zone, and a reduction of the no build to a 20-foot no build zone. So a 10-foot no disturb, a 20-foot no build.
And is that in the area of interest
Yeah.
we're talking about here?
Yes. Yeah, we're right up against the wetlands. So the homeowner is online with us.
Oh, yeah.
okay, so what do we want done?
So I think we need to remove all of the fill.
Yep.
Restore any areas that, are degraded with either plantings or seed, wetland seed mix. I know Taylor had some conversation with the homeowner about something about the shoulder of the driveway, wanting to expand that.
I think that was their intent in doing this,
Yeah.
to make it wider, but they crept into the 10-foot no disturb zone, right up to the edge of the wetland, basically.
So the wetland
It's,
along the toe of the slope of the driveway?
it's just
right there?
beyond the toe of the slope
Okay.
of all that fill.
Yep.
Correct.
Okay.
So they're throughout that 10-foot no disturb.
Yeah, I was just wondering, is there any portion outside of the 10-foot no disturb that could be permitted?
Maybe a small,
Yeah, just a little bit.
maybe a few feet.
Okay, yeah.
It would be very minimal
Okay.
if
So
Oh, yeah, I see it,
I
okay.
provided you guys with as-built plan and packets.
it would
so
be
you can look at
Yeah.
that.
tiny if,
I mean, it's.
and
I think
trees
the
are
edge of
very,
the wetland
If,
was
yeah, if it is, yeah.
fairly close.
So do we need a wetland delineation and a remove and restoration plan? We want them to remove and restore.
Remove and restore.
We want them to remove and restore, and we need to know where the wetland line is.
yeah.
I mean, if we're saying remove and restore, and we don't know where the line is,
This is the one, I remember this one.
so that's, I think, my humble opinion, that's the direction. Remove, restore, and delineate.
No stone wall on this one, right?
No stone
No.
wall.
No
So
stone wall,
remove and
no.
restore, and as part of restoring, delineate and file the restoration plan. And this is the perfect time to do it right now.
So there were, in '94, there were stone walls. They weren't necessarily conditioned by the commission, but there were stone walls separating the driveway and the house from the adjacent wetland area.
Yep.
Which I'm not seeing in photographs, and it just maybe not showing.
Just, it's close up to the, but it's, the stone walls were closer to the house. It didn't run the entire length of the driveway.
Okay, right, exactly, there's,
I don't know where the fill came from. We couldn't have came
there
from
were
the
two areas, right? One around the front of the house, and then
Yeah.
one just to the left of that, which would be to the west of that.
4 feet deep.
Strike that east of that.
So I don't know where
And,
the stuff came from.
But I'm not even seeing those in the fill area. Are those walls buried?
Yeah, I would say they are. It looks like a looks like a
Where-
3-foot
so-
fill.
Where is the fill in relation to the house? Is it further down, or is it,
yes, it's further down, closer to the
why don't you point it out?
So it doesn't go all the way up, okay.
No, it's just like a giant turnout.
Okay.
So the fill is sort of this.
It's right at the bend.
Yeah.
All right, so we don't
So
think,
there wouldn't have been a wall according to this.
no, I'm referring to those two up near there.
Yeah.
Okay, so those we don't think are filled, or buried.
No, it doesn't go that far up.
Okay.
Okay,
No.
so we know where it is.
The homeowner does
So
have
the
his
home-
hand raised.
Okay, yeah. So can we let the homeowner speak, or do you want to go around with comments first?
Let's not spend the whole night on this. We
No,
know-
I don't want to do.
We
I
know
don't
what we
want
want to do
either.
here. I mean, if
I
he
know,
wants to,
but-
if he wants to ask a question, let him ask.
Yeah,
Well,
okay.
I just have one question. I don't want to tie everybody up. Where did the fill come from?
So I got it from PBD. It's some construction site that I got the fill from. So there was a lot of sloping land from where the edge and the driveway. So the edge and the driveway is really close, and my kids play around there.
Yes.
And the slope is like really steep. That's why I added the fill there, so my kid doesn't fall down the slope.
Well, I'm only asking because I would have liked to have known the contractors, so we could send them a letter, or if it's somebody from this town, we get a letter. They should know better. To just dump fill.
Yeah, I didn't know the land was a wetland either. That's why I added the fill.
How long have you lived in this?
I only lived here for like 2 years.
So you just recently bought the house?
Right.
Yeah? And when you bought the house, you had an attorney represent you at the closing, and you read the deed, and you had a title examination done, and you saw that there was an order of conditions, and that there was a perpetual condition about this being a wetland, and none of this work should have been allowed. And so within the past 2 years, you should have known none of this should have happened. You shouldn't have ever contemplated it. You know, I disagree with Lou to the point of, it's not just the contractor's fault. Contractor should know better for sure. So should the homeowner. They, you know, buyer beware. 2 years, you bought a house, you know what you're buying. You're buying a house with a
Yeah,
wetland.
personally, I
That's
didn't
documented.
really know it was a wetland personally.
It's well, it should have been in your deed. So, my concern is that, I don't wanna just deflect this off on a contractor. You know, clearly, the homeowner has every bit as much responsibility with knowing what he has, what he can and can't do. And so I think it's just as much this person's responsibility as it is any contractor's. That's all.
Jack, you have any questions?
No, I don't.
No, it sounds like everybody knows what should be done here, and it sounds like you said the homeowner is cooperative, correct? Yep. So-
Right, yeah.
I agree. No other questions.
All right, so he knows that all that has to be removed.
Yeah, we need.
All right.
we need
Up to what point do I have to move it out?
I think Al was suggesting that we have somebody find out where the wetlands are and have them remove up to
I think he has.
15 feet.
10 foot?
I think
No
they,
disturb,
I think they have it on the plan.
10-foot no disturb?
Did I miss it?
I think it needs to all come out. It needs
I do
to all
too,
come
all of
out.
it has to come out. Yep. It needs to comply with what was the certificate of compliance back in 1994. And,
Well, that area where you made the turnout, that literally has to all come out. Because
So the commission-
you're within 25, you're probably in the wetlands.
So remove all of the fill,
Yes, ma'am.
have the wetland delineated so we know where it is,
and then have it
and then have a restoration
replicated.
plan.
Restore, yeah, restore.
And so we need deadlines for those things.
All right.
Sorry. I'm sorry, Sean.
I was right there to say so.
Month?
A month
Month?
to get all that out?
Now, how do I go about getting it out?
You gotta hire a contractor to haul it away.
Front end loader.
How'd you go about getting it in?
Front end loader and a dump truck,
Yeah,
I
you need
suggest.
You need an excavator and a dump truck.
Or a front end loader.
Backhoe.
Well, you're not a front end loader, you need an excavator.
Okay.
Because this way you can stay
Yeah,
on this
dip it
nice,
out. It's gonna
this
dip
way
it
you can
out.
stay up on this nice new driveway and dig up the soil.
Right. So machinery to operate from the driveway, to reach over and scoop it out. So,
Go with rubber tracks.
We want erosion controls in place before that
Oh, yeah,
happens.
we need
yeah,
erosion.
they're in,
Yeah,
they're
It's
in.
gonna
They're already
require,
in.
They're
They're already in.
They're in.
They're in the
require
picture.
too big of a machine to do it that way.
Really?
Yeah.
So, they make rubber tie excavators.
I know, but the excavator, what you're asking them to get is an excavator that's so big.
But, no, but a rubber tire
He's
excavator
gonna have
will
to,
go right down the
what
driveway.
do you
it's gonna have to
estimate the
roll
reach
over
in? Is
the
about 30
existing
feet,
fill to
30-foot
try and
reach?
work
That's a
that.
big reach. It's a big machine.
No, you
Okay.
start in and you work your way in.
But we just said he has to stay in the driveway.
Well, not when he's first starting to pull it away, he can stand on the.
See, I don't think we should design it,
yeah, I think
that's too much
we'll hire a
detail.
guy
That's too
to
much
figure
detail.
it
Just
out.
say remove, delineate, restore.
Yeah, get out there, I mean, I don't care if you use a
Okay.
helicopter.
Don't tell him
matter.
how to remove it, don't tell, I mean, we're
Alright.
getting into the weeds, it's bad
I know.
voodoo.
We're not
Alright.
supposed to design projects.
Okay, so remove by deadline,
4 weeks.
4 weeks,
Yeah,
delineate
Immediately.
how much,
As soon as it's out, there should be,
within
So they're not
a
readily,
week.
not readily available, so I'd say 6 weeks from today, so 2 additional weeks
right.
to have the continuation done. But he can line that contractor up now for the
Right
next.
now,
Yeah,
yep.
right,
Yeah.
but have it done within 6 weeks.
And then a restoration plan.
restoration plan. I mean, restoration, whoever's doing the delineation should be able to assist him with a
Yes,
restoration
yes.
plan, right?
There you go.
So can I have somebody guide me where I
We-
should stop with the, or like
Yeah.
where?
We
what
can
line
give you,
I should
we can
stop?
give you a list of wetland scientists that are qualified, and you can choose one. We can't
All right.
name one for you, but we can give you a list.
Yeah,
You can,
we have
and you
a
can
list.
choose.
Go down to the
Yeah.
office and see staff, and they'll guide you to contractors.
We'll give you a list.
Okay?
All right, and so the restoration plan,
8 weeks?
8 weeks?
8 weeks.
Yeah,
From
so it's
today-
four, it's
from
4,
today.
2, and 2.
4, 2, and 2.
4, 2, and 2.
Okay. Do we want
That's
to
all.
have
First
an
off-
execution date?
Do we want to what?
We want to have that executed by what date? The
Well, it's
restoration
not
plan?
tomorrow.
One-
No, no,
No, I
when you
mean-
want it all done by, so
One-
we're already
Oh, no,
8 weeks out.
No, we have to wait, let's get the restoration
Restoration
plan,
plan.
and then
And
we
then
can
we'll
put a time,
establish
put a
the
clock on
deadlines
that.
for that.
Right.
Okay.
We're getting too far ahead of it.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. All right, that's fine. All right, so
So
we'll.
I'll move it, but conversely, we could have just said, get an NOI to us by 2 weeks from now.
If you want to do an
No,
NOI.
no, I think this is,
If you want to do an NOI or an
No,
IDA,
no,
but I don't think
no.
that's necessary. I think an EO
okay,
would
No.
remove, delineate, restore.
so moved,
Second,
Restoration plan.
yes.
All those-
restoration
8
plan.
weeks.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
Okay. All
All
right,
those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous.
all right, so we'll,
Thank you.
we'll follow up with our enforcement order that spells everything out.
Don't have an
And we'll give you a
expensive
list of consultants.
All right,
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah, the problem with the NOI versus the enforcement order is the NOI is permission to do it. whereas the enforcement order is saying you have
And
to.
not only that, the enforcement order, we can tell them to do it now. The NOI, you're talking 6 weeks out.
Yeah. Plus, that can be appealed to DEP as opposed to,
No, this
well,
is-
under the bylaw, I guess it could be.
No, the enforcement EO is the way to go.
Yeah, I agree.
It's clean.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going back to, no, we're not, we already did 40 flagship, correct? So now we're gonna go to 1210 Osgood Street. The enforcement, you've already done that, right? Is that
Yep.
part of the first one?
We did, I think.
Yeah.
So we can ignore that one, right?
We're gonna, 1210 is coming up on a date to be determined in the future. We don't have a date for that right now.
Okay, then here's a general business again, so it's all the same thing. And the last but is field assessment service proposal, Foster oil spill.
So that's,
Got sick here.
this is, hold on, let me, this was my suggestion, Mr. Chairman. I took it upon myself to place a call to Pat Seacamp, Seacamp Environmental Consulting, to ask him if he would consider submitting a proposal to act as a consultant for this commission on a one-time basis with a very strict scope of work. The reason is the commission has an LSP. We have Mike Zaboulis as an LSP working on our behalf. We don't have anybody that's a wetland ecologist in freshwater ecosystems. And the Clean Harbors Company is going to have their wetland ecologist, risk assessment, bomb damage assessment program guy go out and do an assessment of the entire area of the spill and report back to us. And everybody on this commission has a tremendous amount of experience in this type of work. We need our own environmental person out there, someone who can go out and do a wildlife assessment, inventory. Well, the scope of services, I have in my hand here the proposal by Pat Seacamp. And it says, I'll read it for the record, Seacamp Environmental has prepared the following cost estimate for wetlands consulting service associated with the above referenced site. The above referenced site is oil spill, town property along Mosquito Brook, North Andover, Massachusetts. SEC anticipates that our involvement in the project will include a field assessment of potential remaining acute effects and potential chronic effects on the flora and fauna of the wetland environment of Mosquito Brook resulting from the recent fuel oil spill along North Street near the brook. As you are aware, we are now in the growing season, and while this can be helpful in determining live plant dieback and stress within the wetland area, more mobile animal life which can migrate out of the area will be harder to assess. It's our understanding that we will be involved in preparing a brief report of our findings and present it to the Commission. We have estimated the following costs, and the scope of services are listed with an estimated cost, a fixed cost of $2,400. If we require, it says we have budgeted two field days and 1 day for report preparation and meeting attendance. In addition, the estimated costs presented do not include additional requested site walks. So two field days and 1 day for preparation and meeting attendance. Should the scope increase, then obviously the price would change. I don't think we need to change the scope. I think the scope personally is satisfactory. What I'm interested in doing is having somebody of Pat's experience with freshwater ecosystems get out there and give us a real good, hard assessment on what is there and what is not there. We all know that parcel, and we all know the kind of wildlife and flora and fauna that resides there and has resided there for as long as that property's been there. And I always say I'm not a wetland scientist, but I do know what I see, and I do know what I don't see. And what I don't see out there right now are the species that are normally there. Great blue herons, nesting waterfowl, fur-bearing animals, wood frogs, not observed by me, but I'm not the guy that's qualified to make those observations. Patrick is. So that's my recommendation. I sincerely recommend that the commission consider this. I would, if this were to pass, the $2,400 would come from the wetland filing fee account. I did have conversation with Mike Sabulis, and Mike was satisfied with the scope of work. It was his opinion that this would not interfere with the work that he does as an LSP, that it would work in parallel. So that's my request, and we discuss it.
What's up? Al, first of all, thank you very much for doing this, and we played a little devil's advocate at the last meeting, and we gave them every single opportunity, they, being Clean Harbors, and their sub-consultants, gave them every opportunity to convince us that ultimately we were gonna get this sort of assessment. And as much as we thought we gave them the opportunity to tell us they were going to do it, the more they were saying they weren't gonna do it. So I think you doing this on our behalf and us considering paying for it on our own is appropriate at this point. I think we want to be careful looking at that very last sentence, or the end of that last sentence on the first paragraph, where a more mobile animal life which can migrate out of the affected area will be harder to assess. So even Pat is telling us determining what isn't there is a pretty hard thing to do.
No doubt.
So, but nonetheless, he's gonna look at the overall impacts and make it some sort of a recommendation or an assessment for us. Normally, I would say that this isn't on an agenda item, and neither is the oil spill, but this is our money, our filing fee. They don't need to know we're doing this. We told them you told them we were going to.
Well,
and I think we're going to.
I told him I thought we should, but that was the discussion I had with Amy. We were talking about it when we were trying to decide if we were legally putting it properly before.
We can spend our filing fee money as we see fit, and I think this is a great place to spend it. And we can use it as evidence for a future discussion. I think it's, as long as we discuss the findings publicly in front of them and challenge them, then I think it's completely fair game.
So,
and I have no issue with this. It's excellent.
Additionally, that what we started to do today was, in addition to talking to Mike Sabulis about it, to make sure that it didn't contradict what he's doing as an LSP, Amy put a call into Mike Howard. Mike was the administrator of this commission at the time when we bought that property from the estate of Earl and Beatrice Foster. And at the time, Mike did a huge workup for town meeting on species, everything about the site. It was a very complete workup. It was a PowerPoint presentation at town meeting, and if we were able to retrieve only portions of it. I have some photographs from.
So we have a baseline.
Well, we don't yet. We don't have the exact species, a head count on the species, which was done. An inventory was done. I remember at town meeting him getting up and saying, listing all the animals that live there that were observed. The whole ecosystem was reported on. We have some pictures, historical pictures from town meeting of the PowerPoint. But we don't have, we have yet to find the actual language that was used. But Mike was the guy that did it. So if we really had to, we could push his memory a little bit and have him recall. But he's the baseline.
Okay.
Him and those of us that live out there every day. So anyway.
Yeah, I'm totally in favor of this. I wish I had thought of it myself, but Al, of course, is on the ball. The whole thing that bothers me about this entire oil spill is the response after coming in with a vacuum truck sucking up free oil that was floating on the road and on the on the ground beside it. Their response has been booms and absorbent material and natural attenuation. And booms and absorbent material worked for about, I don't know, a few weeks. And natural attenuation is just, we're not going to do anything. So, okay, that doesn't passed a smell test with me, and why it doesn't is I believe there's damages there. Damages to wildlife, damages to vegetative life, and this is exactly how we uncover that, because I think, you know, the systems in place have failed the town of North Andover in this instance, and I think this is one step, a good first step to take to stand up for the town.
I'm in favor of it as well.
I'm not extremely familiar with this since it's been going on for so long, but do we have like a square footage or some sort of delineation of the area of the spill? And the only reason I bring it up is because...
Square footage, you mean acreage?
Is it acreage?
Oh,
I don't even know.
It's acreage.
Oh,
It's acreage, it's acreage, yeah.
So what I'm concerned about is, in the scope of services, it says field assessment of spill area below road culvert. It doesn't really define what area is going to be reviewed, right?
So-
There should be some sort of, like, we're looking at this area.
Let me comment on that. So Mike Sabulis, our LSP, has been out there a number of times. He was out there today. He actually, when he first came on board, he helped make the suggestion that Clean Harbors should install a series of booms downstream. So we have three sets of booms that probably extend, I don't know, couple hundred feet, 200, 300 feet or so downstream of the culvert. And his observations today, he reported that, you know, he's seeing on the left bank downstream, there's some brown vegetation. So there is a discrete area where we know that there's impacts and we can see them now.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure that's sort of defined in the scope of services,
Yeah.
that entire area. And I also think he should be using a non-disturbed reference area, right? So,
Yep.
I think the methodology needs to be fleshed out here. If this is going to be something that we're going to have to defend, and it's going to become potentially a legal document, I think the methods need to be really clearly spelled out, so nobody can just be like, you went out and did a field assessment, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
I just think he needs to define, and
Well,
Pat's a great wetlands consultant. I've worked with him in the past. He's
Our
amazing.
property, the property is the scope, is the subject area.
Okay.
The property.
Yeah, because he just says the spill area below the culvert. So I just want to make sure he's looking at all the potential areas that could be, that's subject to, to this.
Mike Sabulis is gonna meet him out there. Well, Pat's, obviously, if we approve this, then we'll tell him it's approved and ask him when his date he can, we know he can't get there Thursday or Friday. Mike already asked if he could get there Thursday or Friday. And he can't. But these are the pictures that Mike took today, he sent out, and the areas where he talked about, and the areas that were supposed to naturally attenuate are dead, they've died off. There's a big die-off taking place now in the vegetation that Mike observed today, and photographed and sent those out in an email. So, I guess if we had an aerial photo to show you the scope of the ecosystem, you can see it's an old agricultural area that eventually is bounded by woods. And that's the area that he's gonna be concentrating on.
Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure that's sort of delineated for him out there, so he's clear.
It would be the town-owned property.
Okay, the entire
We're not going off property.
Gotcha.
It's gonna be the town-owned property. He's not gonna be assessing any property owned by National Grid or anybody else.
Okay. I think it's worth having him sort of spell that out, just so it's clear.
We can do that.
Yeah, just a quick revision of this, and then the brief report as well. What's going to be in the report? Is he going to provide photos? He just says, a brief report of the findings. I think if he finds something out there, let's say a patch of dead vegetation, it should be shown on a figure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The reference areas should be shown. The areas of impact that he notices should be shown, along with what the observations were at each location. And the reason is just because, again, if we're gonna use this to say there's been damages out there, we want to make sure that the methods are defensible.
To add to that, I think, and I know where you're going with this, and for $2,400, it's kind of a cursory, it's a starting point, is really all we're asking for. But we've got some historical observations of this spill and the impacts of it. Dead wildlife, Taylor, he's seen several instances of dead wildlife. We've got sheens observed, we've got dead vegetation now, pictures of dead vegetation. So, yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Let's plot those out, even historic observations, and get it on paper. And again, compare that to the baseline documentation study that Mike Howard did. I almost called him Ron Howard. That Mike Howard did.
Opie.
And yeah, you know, just define some damages here, because that's really what we're getting at.
It was crystal clear at the last meeting that Clean Harbors was simply looking at the mass contingency plan and looking at it strictly from the chemical environmental aspect of it, and not the wildlife habitat, flora or fauna. We had no intention, and they're going to analytically look at concentrations based on a statistic of where there may be a potential for impact or may not be, with no physical assessment on the ground. And I was giving them enough leeway to tell us you're gonna do this, and Al kept saying they weren't gonna do it, and they finally said that, nope, they're doing this statistical analysis. And that's when all bets were off. We need something. We're the landowner, just as if the other private folks across the street are concerned with oil in their soils. We're concerned with what's happening to our wildlife. Sure. Not just simply cleaning up the spill, but fixing the impacts.
They clearly said that they were going by state specs.
Well, that's the MC, mass contingency.
That's twice they did that. I just want to give a little history on the applicant, the person, the violator, the insurance company, the LSP. He did, I'm not defending him, because unfortunately it was his truck. But he did everything that was required of him per EPA, calling the LSP.
100%.
Right? We're fining him, okay? His hands are tied. Clean Harbors, I've gone to like 3 or 4 meetings here, and I wouldn't have represent them for a dog license.
I'll tell you, I'm in the business. Many of us have been in various parts of this business. And, I had front end loader with a hydraulic leak that broke overnight. The machine had blown a hose in the sun, dumped 75 gallons of hydraulic fluid into a catch basin. Thank God we had our sewer guys at the plant who saw it, plugged the catch basins. The first people we get called, Clean Harbors. Thank God it didn't have an actual release into the system. All I did is get it into a confined drain. But they're the go-to people in the country.
Yeah.
I dare say in North America. So it's a shame to really see that their focus is not even beginning to align with the wetland wildlife issues, which is what Al has been harping on for 2 months now. So it's high time we start here, for sure.
Well, just so for future reference, the thing you were saying is the insurance company has already paid Clean Harbors $250,000. They estimate it's going to be another $250,000 to continue. The insurance company, in turn, has turned and canceled Hilton Oil. Right? So my question is, we keep, we want this, we want that, you're not doing this, you're not doing. At some point, does the insurance company just say, hey, we canceled them, or does that claim stay open based on, because what happens is, we're going to end up with a whole bag of nuts here with nobody to pay for it.
Well, I've known from the minute we put the enforcement order in place that any fine, insurance companies don't pay.
No, that's fine, he's going other routes, but I'm just saying.
What I'm saying is that we're going after the responsible party because that's the guy who's on the hook. The reality, he's done everything that we could possibly expect him to do to come to compliance. He just surrounded himself with a bunch of morons who aren't performing to our standards.
Well, the thing that I'm trying to say is if the insurance company starts paying, they can't afford to do what's being done. So, can they walk away? Does the insurance company still?
And not our fight, I mean.
I know, but I'm just saying,
Lou, I'll have a long conversation with you about insurance companies and environmental spills someday.
Yeah.
I have to handle a lot.
Yeah, he was insured up to the, when he was insured up to the day the spill occurred, they're on the hook for everything after that.
So they are, the insurance company is?
We'll
Complicated.
talk about it
Yeah,
someday. It's a lot, it's not a
It's
conversation.
not an answer that's
So
not-
I just don't want us, I don't want us to get hold of the bag.
We
That's
won't
what
be.
I'm trying to say.
We're the landowners.
We just do what we do.
Well, we're the property owners.
Yeah.
The town owns the land, and it's under our care and custody by statute.
Right.
We are the CR holder for that property.
Yeah, my concern is who's gonna, when
Bottom
people
line is
start walking
yeah,
away,
let's-
We have
who
Hilton.
ends up with the nut?
We have Hilton.
Yeah.
We have Hilton.
All
All right? So, Hilton's not
So-
going anywhere.
Really? Okay.
We'll talk offline.
So is there a motion
With no
to,
insurance, he's done.
So there needs to be, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I move that we authorize the
I just want
chairman
to finish this.
to allow the commission to enter into a professional services agreement with Seacamp Environmental to extent of not more than $3,000 without prior approval to cover the services outlined in their proposal of May 12, 2022.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous.
Thank you all.
Thank you. What's the $600, Joe, for you to go on vacation?
There's gonna be more, there's gonna be more we want to, they're gonna go a little further downstream.
Nobody at this table is without
Mr. Chairman, if I could add a
experience.
quick,
Oh, I know.
We all know what's
motion to
coming.
adjourn?
No, before we do that, Chairman, I got one
Second?
real quick,
Oh.
one, only
Sorry.
because we know Smolak's wedding venue came before us with an NOI with all kinds of stuff around it. Is any action of demolishing those buildings that we should know about? Do they need to file an emergency certification because of the fire they had out there?
There were small buildings that burned.
But they were right next to where we gave all those permits.
Yeah,
Where
the wetlands are right there.
The wetlands are right there.
Did the fire department report any?
No,
I guess you're going on a
you know
field
about the
trip.
fire, right? You know about the fire?
Actually, you were out there. You and I, we did a field trip with Amy there, right? All right, so yeah.
I didn't know.
They didn't
So
know-
remember the wedding venue at Smolak Farm?
Yeah.
And they have the two buildings right up near the parking lot? They lost the two buildings. They burned to the
Okay.
ground.
Oh.
So they're demolishing the buildings. They should be
Okay.
getting some emergency certification for that work. So
Okay.
follow through on that, just to,
Okay.
That'll be interesting. Stay tuned. Because you know they're gonna want to rebuild.
they should, whatever action they're doing now, they should get emergency cert while they still have the window open,
So
right?
staff is gonna do an inspection?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Asking.
Okay.
That's what I'm asking.
Staff's doing an inspection.
All right,
Did
so
not know, sorry.
You made a motion to adjourn.
Yep.
And it was the motion to
Sean.
adjourn, seconded.
I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. You can shut us off, sir.
We want the John Kerry cold mic.
Yes, please.
Sure.